Zombies swarmed near the laboratory tower. Their screams mingled with the smell of blood. Corpses littered the floor, and darkness enveloped the space. Liu squatted in front, a cigarette in his fingers, his eyes tired, his hands shaking with tension. He stared at the circle of enemies he couldn't defeat. The fruitless slaughter of people behind him, only a ring of dead ahead. He had found nothing. The zombies approached slowly, step by step. Their faces were distorted, their jaws snapping in the void. Liu pulled the pin on the grenade. This shit was over. He would meet the zombies in hell. A flash of light tore through the darkness, and the tower shook from a powerful explosion. A beam of light shot out from the tower. Time wavered, and a stream of energy opened the gates to another dimension. The retrospective flow of time swallowed him up. A message appeared. The target's transfer to another dimension has begun. The target will arrive 10 minutes before the end of the world. Liu found himself inside a bright vortex. His body was torn apart by light. His consciousness was plunging into the past. He didn't understand what was happening. Was he being sent back in time, he thought? The day of the beginning of the apocalypse appeared before my eyes. The moon illuminated the earth. The streets were full of people. Everyone was screaming and running around in panic, running out of the supermarket. The store shook with noise. A thief with a knife in his hand jumped out, and the crowd scattered in all directions. He demanded all the cards and to get everything he had, threatening with a knife. The saleswoman opened the cash register. Her trembling hands extended wads of money, her face turning pale with fear. Wang took everything out and handed it to the robber. He suddenly noticed the girl's beauty and smiled insolently. The bandit's mouth watered with desire. He didn't think he'd be so lucky. The robber stepped forward. His gaze slid over the girl, her eyes reflecting horror and helplessness. The girl fell to the floor. A shadow loomed over her, and tension hung in the air. As if, before a disaster, she asked what he was going to do. The girl grabbed a toy, an inflatable chicken from the floor. She was trembling, but she clutched it like a weapon, threatening to scream. The thief laughed, walked closer. His shadow stretched across the floor. Laughter filled the space, pressing on the consciousness. The louder she screamed, the more excited he became. The screams grew louder. The girl was shaking with panic. Her face was distorted with fear. The girl pressed herself against the wall, the toy slipping from her hands. The bandit reached out and ripped her blouse. Van screamed, covering her chest, calling for help. The bandit just laughed, claiming that no one would help her. Suddenly, a roar ripped through the hall. A blinding flash illuminated the room, and the walls shook. A man's silhouette appeared in the clouds of smoke. His eyes glowed with determination. It was Liu. Liu really did return in the last minutes before the end of the world. The thought flashed through his mind, and a smile touched his lips. The countdown began. The screen flickered. 9:59. Liu's heart sank. A flash of memory. 10 minutes ago. He had a plan in his head to gather food, tobacco, alcohol, everything he needed. The spatial ring glows dimly on his finger. He has only one thought. Find the warehouse. Fill the ring with supplies. A robber with a knife appears in the hallway. His eyes glow with malicious excitement, and he threatens with the knife. He thinks the boy's gun is a toy. The robber promises to make a couple of holes in Liu's body. Liu moves with lightning speed. Strike. The robber's body falls to the floor. Liu orders him to shut his mouth. The robber, on his knees, in wet pants, begs for mercy and admits that he was wrong. A second blow. The neck breaks under the sudden movement. The hall falls silent. The robber falls to the floor, foaming at the mouth. Liu turns to the saleswoman, Wang. She's trembling, but points deeper, to where the warehouse is hidden. A small gift, a hairpin, flashes in his hand. The girl is shocked. Her gaze is confused. She holds out the key. Liu catches it without even slowing his pace. Van thanks him for saving him. Liu thanks her and advises her for the future, if she wants to survive, to find him, and he will fulfill any of her requests. Van doesn't understand what he means by survive. The warehouse door opens. Before my eyes are rows of boxes, whole mountains of supplies. Liu glanced at the timer. 5:56 flashed on the screen. Inside, there was only one thought. Gather as many supplies as possible. His hand flashed with light. The scanner activated. The boxes shook and began to disappear, being drawn into the ring. 3:26. He ran through the warehouse, his arm outstretched. A stream of light sucked in entire rows of boxes. The shelves rattled, emptying one after another. Sweat rolled down his face, his breathing ragged. 1:17. My gaze darted around. My legs carried me faster and faster. 042. The last boxes were drawn into the ring. The warehouse shook with vibration. 001. Liu stopped among the empty shelves, a smile appearing on his lips. The thought flashed through my mind. The supplies have been collected. It's time to return. A flash of light illuminated the space. Liu found himself in its center. The outlines trembled and melted. After the end, zombies roamed the streets of the fallen city. Night shrouded the empty neighborhoods. High-rise buildings loomed over the bloody ruins, and the wind blew scraps of debris along the cracks in the asphalt. In the alley, the marauders spotted the girl. Their steps quickened, weapons gleaming in their hands. They decided to take a closer look. They decided to play with it for a few days, after which they could sell it and exchange the proceeds for some food. She pressed herself against the wall, her eyes filled with terror. She had no strength left, only despair. Van said she would scream and ask them not to come closer. They just called her a screamer, drooling. Her screaming only excited them. No one would save her, they claimed. Suddenly, a flash tore through the street. A man's silhouette appeared in the glow, his shadows reflected on the walls. The marauders turned, confusion frozen on their faces. A man stood before them, blaster raised. The girl sobbed with relief. Liu stood right in front of her, ready to open fire. The girl reaches out to the man in tears, her hands shaking. She prays for salvation. Liu recognizes her, the saleswoman from earlier. He offers his help. He runs into the attack, promising to return the favor. The guys look at him calmly, not understanding where he came from and why he is getting involved in the affairs of the Axe Gang. Is he really tired of living? They promise to help them die. A bunch of idiots end up in the stinking sewers of this fallen city every day. Liu noted that this meant no one would notice they were missing. A symbol flashes on Liu's hand, a blue glow spreading across her skin. The shadows around her deepen, and the air feels charged with energy, ready to burst forth. The men noticed a mark on the man's hand. The symbol flashed blue, reflecting in their eyes. Their expressions changed: fear, panic, a sense of irreversible error. They realized this was the mark of awakening. He was awakened. They repent, asking for mercy. They have committed a great stupidity. The next second they jumped back from the blade strike, Liu delivered lightning-fast blows. They fell to the floor, confused and disarmed, blood spurting from their necks. The girl froze, her eyes wide, not understanding what had happened. It all happened so fast, and they were dead. Liu stood calmly, his gaze focused on her, but without cruelty. He asked if she had forgotten him, but Wang truly didn't remember him. Liu reminded me of the Luangjia supermarket. He was holding a security card, a robbery. The girl froze, her gaze darting between past and present. Realization gradually dawned. It was him. Wang was shocked. Why Liu hadn't changed, she wondered. Liu promises to explain later. He agreed to her request and will definitely take her away from here. Van asks her to save her boyfriend. He was kidnapped by a gang of axemen. They've been hunting them for a long time, seeking revenge. Wang was supposed to meet him today, but he didn't show up. He must have been caught. Liu was surprised. He only promised one favor. Wang was confused. Liu noted that he was almost certain that her boyfriend had sold her out. She pauses, trying to process his words, doubt and fear reflected in her eyes. Van doesn't believe it. It's impossible. He would never do that to her. Voices were heard in the distance. Someone was looking for the fugitives. Figures appeared on the deserted street, a gang of axe-wielding men with weapons. Zhuoji stood among the gang, his eyes filled with relief at the sight of the fugitives. The girl ran up to him, delighted but cautious, glancing back at the bandits. Van asked if he was okay. "I'm here," the girl shouted, smiling. "Wang Ting, since you're here, that's great," Zhuo noted. "Assistant," Zhuo said. "The girl has been found, and she's a virgin too. How much food can you give for her?" "The debt still needs to be paid," Zhuo asked, turning to the chief. Wang Ting was surprised. "Zhuoji, you're joking, right?" she asked. But he was absolutely serious, the gang leader said. He sold her to him. All he needed was a sack of bread. The girl was surprised by the bag of bread. She didn't believe it. Wang was sure it was a lie. Zhuo loved her. He couldn't sell her. "I love you?" Zhuo asked. He was just pretending to be her boyfriend so he could sell her later. It's like fattening up a pig and then killing it. He did it all the time. He'd kept her virginity for so many years, only to sell her for a high price. Ji was a bastard. Wang was blind, she realized, crying. "Baby, "Don't cry over this scum," the gang leader said with a grin. "Come to your brother in his arms." "Brother loves her very much," he said, holding out his arms to her. Okay, stop," Liu said. He didn't care what grievances they had between themselves. But he promised the girl that he would take her away from here safe and sound, he said, stopping the chief. "You're a fucking brat. You're tired of living," said one of the fighters, threatening him with a weapon. But before he could finish his words, a sword plunged into his neck and struck. The man fell to the ground, blood gushing from his mouth. Liu stands in the center, his gaze intense, assessing the remaining opponents. He asks who else will dare to threaten him. A man with a knife in his throat lies on the floor, overwhelmed by Liu's power. There's chaos all around. Weapons fly apart, shadows tremble from the flashes of light from the symbol on his hand. The remaining opponents stand frozen, confused and cautious, trying to comprehend what has happened. A seal flashed on the guy's hand, a blue glow spreading across his skin. If they don't leave, Liu threatens to kill everyone. The bandits froze, fear reflected in every movement. In front of them stood an awakened one, and they were all crazy. There was no chance of coping with him. The chief was angry. This boy was trying to intimidate him. He wasn't the only one who had woken up here. They were the law here, and they decided who had to go. The leader activated his power, a first-level awakening with stone skin. The gang leader stepped forward, a golden glow enveloping his figure, demonstrating his control over the territory. Wang was surprised. He too was awakened. Zhuo advised her to simply accept her fate. A pretty face wouldn't help her. The girl touched Liu's shoulder, hiding behind him, her eyes full of worry. The boy stepped forward confidently, the weapon in his hand glowing, ready to attack. The gang leader came forward and promised to let Liu go if he gave up the girl. Wang accepted her fate. She asked to give it up. She didn't want Liu to be harmed. But Liu was against it. He noted that he always keeps his promises. Liu went on the attack. The leader noted that the boy was looking death in the eye. He was a first-level awakened being, and his poke wouldn't pierce his stone skin. Liu struck. Suddenly, the energy from the blow pierced the guard. The leader's body trembled, and his movements froze. The leader fell to the ground, shocked and confused. Blood gushed out, and the bandits could not believe what was happening. Wang froze in amazement, her eyes widening at what she saw. Zhuo was stunned. Zhou and the other bandits stood there dumbfounded, admitting that a level 1 awakened with stone skin was invulnerable. There was no way he could die like that. The bandits exchanged glances. Maybe he was a second-level awakened, they wondered. Liu, his blade bloodied, noted that it was their turn now. The bandits were frightened. They promised to show them where Big Brother's supplies were. Panicked, they decided to run away, or they would all die. Zhuo tried to run away, fear reflected in his every movement. "Burn in hell," Liu said, looking at them. Liu lunged forward, his movements lightning fast, each blow striking everyone around him. Blades flashed in the air, and the opponents fell one after another. The last remaining Zhuo stood paralyzed with horror, not knowing what to do. His body shook, and he collapsed to the ground, stunned. He begged for forgiveness. He was possessed, and he didn't mean to do this, he insisted. He had made a mistake, and he begged for mercy. They'll be able to use him as long as he lives, he promised. Wang Ting paused for a moment, her eyes reflecting confusion and wondering what to do with Zhuo. Zhou stood before her, his body hunched, his gaze downcast, his hands folded in a gesture of submission. His posture and movements radiated desperation and a plea for mercy. Wang Ting assessed the situation, her eyes darting between fear, determination, and the possibility of mercy. Zhou sank to his knees, the tension in his body and the look in his eyes betraying complete resignation. Wang Ting decided to keep Zhuo alive, but she no longer wanted to see him around. He thanked her and promised never to do such a thing again. Zhou rushed down the street, his figure disappearing into the distance, his body tense, his posture betraying fear. Liu watched the departure, realizing that he couldn't just let such a person go. He could harm himself and others. He had to leave a mark. His hand glowed. The magical power activated. The air around him vibrated, preparing to leave a mark. Several beams of energy erupted from Zhuo's body, leaving a noticeable mark on his back, a wound that served as a mark and a warning. Wang Ting watched, the tension on her face giving way to surprise. Liu explained that he hadn't killed him. He fired several beams of air energy into his body. If he wanted to kill him, he would die in an instant. Zhuo held his chest, amazement and fear reflected in his posture. He felt the unusual influence of magic. Suddenly, a glow appeared in front of Liu. He was surprised, but Wang did not see anything. The guy's fist glowed with a golden light, the energy flickering, causing surprise even to himself. A message flickered on the screen. The rebirth system has been activated. The guy froze, his gaze fixed on the screen, his eyes widened in surprise. The information flickered on the display. User Liu Xiaomo, Strength 58, Agility 47, Awakening Level 2. The awakening glasses glowed nearby, hinting at the possibility of leveling up or purchasing items at the mall. The boy realized the system was indeed activated. The thought of hidden secrets and mysteries of this world flashed through my head, causing both excitement and caution. He took a step toward planning. He needed to assemble a team and return to the research institute as soon as possible. The girl ran up to Liu, excited. Liu stood calmly, assessing the situation, noting that she was safe and could go now. He stepped forward, focused on his tasks. Liu realized that this end of the world was becoming more and more interesting. The girl tried to catch up with him, quickening her steps, asking him to take her with him. Liu noted that he had only promised to save her, and she had promised to help him. She tried to offer him what she had. Her movements expressed readiness. She bared her shoulder. Liu was confused as he realized what was happening. He froze, surprise flashing across his face. He extended his hand, covering her shoulder, a gesture of care and protection. He understood that she was a good person, and this was the best choice for her. Liu smiled and told her to follow him. She followed him, and they continued their journey through the chaos of this post-apocalyptic world. Wang and Liu walked through the streets of a completely different world where neon signs glowed brightly and colorfully. Aircraft flew overhead, leaving glowing trails in the dark sky. The girls at the stands moved gracefully, their gestures hinting at services for food, the conditions that this strange world demanded. One of the girls was crawling on the floor with a leash around her neck, completely broken. The massive man held the leash, absorbed in his thoughts, chewing an apple. The man threw the core on the ground in disgust, his gaze reflecting disgust and weariness at what was happening. The apple fell to the floor, immediately attracting the attention of those around them. They rushed towards it, creating chaos on the street. A crush of people ensued, everyone trying to grab the apple first, and the scene was full of tension. Wang had never been here. Liu explained it was the princess's district, a paradise for the rich and a hell for the poor, where you could buy anything you wanted. Van pressed herself against him, her eyes wide, her posture filled with surprise and confusion. She asked where they were going. Liu watched the scene calmly, pointing to a building in the distance, indicating their destination. The tall auction building loomed on the horizon, its silhouette striking through the neon lights. The auction hall was full of people, but the stage in front of them remained empty, creating a sense of anticipation. Waiters in suits with bunny ears served drinks, their movements precise and synchronized. One of the men smiled, his eyes filled with joy at the upcoming rewards for the awakened First Order. The city of immortals opened up to the wilderness. Everyone's attention was drawn to the scene where the presenter appeared, reporting on mine raids in the west of the fallen city. The mention of the Second Order awakened caused tension. The audience discussed the Leather Man and the Iron Man, representatives of the Dragon's militant group. The man's announcement of punishment for stealing resources and the challenge of a group of warring dragons to the arena created an atmosphere of threat and competition. Wang walked beside Liu, her eyes expressing anxiety and hostility toward those around her. Liu remained calm, assessing the situation and explaining that they were only there to replenish their supplies. The bunny-eared waitresses laughed in the corner, watching every move of the guests. Liu approached them and asked for directions to the auction building to sell his items. The girls immediately sized him up, narrowing their eyes and showing distrust and disdain, discussing his appearance and possible intentions. The first attempt to get inside was unsuccessful. The girls refused to show the way. Suddenly, Liu took a chocolate bar out of his pocket. Its shine attracted the attention of the girls, changing their attitude towards him. He wanted to go to Hall 5 to participate in the auction to buy supplies. Liu asked who could show him the way. Their faces and gestures expressed surprise and interest. Now they were ready to help, watching him with curiosity. Several girls approached Liu, each trying to attract attention by demonstrating different abilities and skills. One held his hand, the other tried to stand out from the rest by showing off her prominent body parts, creating a tense and chaotic atmosphere. Liu looked them over carefully, assessing their actions and abilities, deciding who to choose. The girl with the big mouth didn't appeal to him. His gaze fell on the fourth girl, who stood to the side, her calmness catching his attention. The girl froze in surprise when he made a choice in her favor, her gaze combining amazement and wariness. Liu approached her, holding a chocolate bar in his hand, gesturing as a reward for her help. Liu asked to take his girlfriend to the shower and give her new clothes, and he would give a good reward. The girl accepted the offer, nodding and showing her readiness to carry out the task. Her movements were confident and respectful. The atmosphere around changed slightly. The other girls stepped back, watching the new distribution of roles and Liu's decision. Wang Ding grabbed Liu's hand, her gaze reflecting doubt and anxiety about the upcoming purchase. It was too expensive for her. Liu gently touched her chin, the confidence and determination in his movements demonstrating his control of the situation. His men would use only the best. She froze for a moment, then agreed, knowing inwardly that she now belonged to his group. Liu recognized her as his person. She became embarrassed. The auction hall was full, and a voice from the stage congratulated the commander of the Armed Assault Combat Regiment. A girl stood on the stage next to a large cage, in which was a mutated monster, attracting the attention of the public. A zombie, comparable to an awakened First Order for 1,000 rounds. Van watched the proceedings, surprised that even zombies were being auctioned off. Liu explained the significance of the crystals in the brains of mutated zombies. They could enhance the powers of an ordinary person, attracting the interest of buyers. He noted that in this apocalyptic world, with the help of supplies, one can get almost everything that people want. The next lot appeared on the scene. An armed truck, converted by the Supreme Mechanical Master, Turtle, from the Fallen City. The initial supply was set at 1 million rounds. The truck boasted an impressive exterior of pure steel, capable of withstanding attacks from third-tier Awakened. It could accommodate up to 20 people, and its powerful 800-horsepower engine made it a true walking fortress. Liu assessed the item, realizing that such an armored vehicle would be ideal for survival in the harsh environment outside the city. Shouts and bids echoed through the hall. A group of militant Fallen had placed a bet of 1 million rounds, seeking to acquire a powerful transport. A group of militant Tyrannosaurs offered 1.2 million rounds of ammunition. A tense atmosphere arose in the room when a man from the group began arguing with members of the militant Tyrannosaur group, offering his terms of 1.5 million. A heated debate about the odds on the truck began. The odds rose, and the room filled with shouts and noise. One of the participants attempted to attack his competitor on the spot, causing chaos and tension among those present. At that moment, a man appeared with a confident posture and a slight smile. His presence immediately silenced everyone. He instilled fear by ordering everyone to shut up or get out of there. The people in the hall were surprised to recognize him upon his return, and the atmosphere became even more tense. A new bid from a group of berserker warriors, placed by Fire Monkey, Boss 2, has raised the price to 2 million rounds, intensifying the competition for the truck. Competing with him in trades was extremely difficult. His reputation inspired both fear and respect. Fire Monkey, the second leader of the group of violent berserkers, enjoyed popularity and influence in the Fallen City. He was considered one of the most powerful second-tier Awaken, his strength commanding respect even among experienced fighters. On stage, everyone's attention was focused on the girl preparing to announce the auction results. A congratulatory message was given to the Fire Monkey on her purchase of the truck. A sudden voice interrupted the bidding, causing surprise among those present. Boss 2 and the girl on stage were stunned by the sudden bid. Liu made his offer from the balcony, voicing a bet of 3 million rounds of ammunition. With 3 million rounds of ammunition, Liu instantly became the focus of attention. His bet comparable to the price of a small combat group. Boss 2 showed anger and determination, his figure standing out among those present, inspiring fear. Liu calmly assessed the situation, placing bets from the balcony, keeping the attention of the public and competitors on himself. The stakes rose rapidly, and the sequence of actions between the participants turned into a tense bargaining with constant increases. The crowd stood transfixed as the bets jumped from 3 million to 6 million rounds. Each increase caused a new wave of excitement, surprise, and fear among those present. The interaction between Liu and Boss 2 created the feeling of a personal confrontation, where every bet was a display of strength and strategic position. The room filled with tension. Everyone understood that the outcome of the bidding would determine who would receive the truck and what role it would play in the chaotic future world. People in the hall whispered, amazed by the record-breaking 6 million rounds of ammunition, realizing the scale of what was happening. They discussed how the young man had managed to beat the fire monkey himself in the bidding, becoming the main sensation of the auction. The members of Boss 2's group admitted that the price was too high for them, fearing the leader's wrath. Boss 2 was annoyed. He ordered everyone to shut up and did not believe that he could lose to the brat. Boss 2 and the master exchanged glances, each assessing the other's strength and resolve. Boss 2 offered Master Turtle that their group of violent berserkers would carry out any one task if he sold the truck to them. Master Turtle, who created the truck, considered the proposal of a group of rampaging berserkers and took into account their known strength in the fallen city. An agreement was reached, and the truck was transferred to a group of violent berserkers, its reputation adding weight to the deal. The atmosphere of the auction was filled with surprise, anxiety, and admiration for the winner's courage. Liu moved through the crowd, holding a box in his hands, attracting the attention of those around him. He approached Master Turtle, offering something that might interest him, causing surprise. Master Turtle froze, looking at the contents of the box, his eyes expressing bewilderment and curiosity. Liu showed off the 2020 idol figurine, demonstrating its features and capabilities by comparing it to real human actions. Those present in the hall watched the reaction. Boss 2 also watched in surprise, trying to figure out if Master Turtle would like the proposal. The audience awaited the master's reaction. People in the hall discussed the value of the toys and the group's assistance, doubting that Master Turtle would agree to exchange the truck. Master Turtle looked closely at the figurine of Yui Hatana, noting its divine qualities and reminding himself of his youthful dreams. Liu held out several more boxes containing other idols, showing off his resources and capabilities. Master Turtle studied them, agreeing that he now had everything he wanted: Yoshizawa, Ohashi, Sakurai, Ao, and Suzu. Liu watched as the master showed interest, pondering Turtle's strange hobby. Master Turtle decided to trade the truck for the offered items. The foreman smiled and showed satisfaction. Boss 2 noticed this, ran up behind him, and tried to intervene, indignant that the deal could go through without him. Master Turtle apologized to Fire Monkey. He held up boxes containing idols from the past, emphasizing their rarity and value. People in the hall whispered, shocked by the master's decision to exchange the armored truck for ordinary dolls, not understanding the master's motives and interests. Boss 2 expressed irritation and surprise, realizing that he could not change the outcome of the deal. The young auctioneer attracted everyone's attention, creating a sense of a promising future. Master Turtle smiled, demonstrating satisfaction and good intentions. Boss 2 was angry. His thoughts revolved around the young man who dared to oppose him and his plans for revenge. He ordered his subordinates to set up an ambush at the exit of the auction house, intending to stop the enemy. The subordinates agreed, preparing for the fight, and Boss 2 himself was looking forward to dealing with his opponent. At this time, the next auction lot was announced on stage, attracting the attention of Liu and Boss 2. The girl appeared on the scene, awakened with the rare perceptual abilities of Wunan. Her rare skills caused surprise. Boss 2 noticed that this woman not only possessed strength, but also an attractive appearance, adding intrigue to the situation. The public admired her figure and talent, discussing that she was worthy of attention and a high stake. Liu watched the woman on stage, pondering her attractiveness and rare abilities. The presenter noted that she is awakened with perceptual skills capable of tracking the tracks of madmen for kilometers around. Her sensory abilities allowed her to detect dangerous areas in the wilderness and reduce casualties by up to 90%. Typically, such individuals were worth 500,000 rounds of ammunition. The audience in the hall discussed the woman's potential, including the possibility of sleeping and fighting alongside her new owner. The host tried to stop the chatter and announce the price. Suddenly, the woman took the microphone, drawing even more attention from the audience and creating tension in the room. The girl announced that this time she was selling herself voluntarily, but she had conditions beyond the bullets. Everyone remarked on the lot's uniqueness. The men assured him they were willing to agree to any terms to win the bidding. The girl voiced one of her conditions: to destroy a group of violent berserkers. The audience was stunned by such an unusual and bold request, understanding the scale of the threat. They realized that opposing the group meant certain defeat. One of them admitted the woman had acted madly, unafraid of their strength. Suddenly, Boss 2's laughter rang out, recalling the previous events with the White Feathers group. He noted that the woman managed to escape from the hands of her enemies despite the dangerous circumstances. The men in the hall were discussing how, in the past, the battle berserkers had ambushed the white feathers and wiped them out completely. It was clear that the woman had managed to escape, but her wounds had kept her in the city, leaving her with a pretext for revenge. The people in the hall understood that the group of rampaging berserkers was too powerful. Provoking them was dangerous. Even if the woman surrendered, her condition would be impossible to fulfill. The host realized the situation was spiraling out of control. The reserve price was set at 10 million rounds, and everyone present began preparing to place their bets. Boss 2 tried to convince the participants that no one would dare to oppose his group by showing a threat. A cry of willingness to offer 10 million rounds of ammunition rang out in the hall, surprising and impressing the audience. Wang Ting wondered why Xiaomo allowed her to bid. Liu explained her participation as a way to experience the local tyrant's emotions under the auction conditions. Boss 2 instantly pulled a gun out of his pants, his gaze full of rage and determination. He pointed the gun at Liu, demonstrating his readiness to destroy his opponent on the spot. The audience was shocked by Liu's courage. He dared to insult a group of violent berserkers twice. People in the audience remarked that the young man looked death straight in the eye. Fire Monkey held a pistol, his expression threatening and determined. Liu asked if he would really kill him in the auction house. Boss 2 assessed the auction house, doubting its strength compared to a group of rampaging berserkers. He raised his pistol, declaring personal war on Liu, showing threat and determination. People in the hall panicked and sought cover, realizing the danger and unpredictability of the situation. Some remarked on the boss's courage in daring to shoot right inside the auction house. Boss 2 pulled the trigger, shouting threats and pointing the gun straight at the boy. The bullet flew toward Liu, but he remained calm and dodged it, demonstrating precision and reflexes. The atmosphere at the auction suddenly became tense. Liu appeared behind Boss 2 with lightning speed, demonstrating incredible speed and accuracy, noting that his bullets were very slow. He placed his blaster to the back of his enemy's head, leaving everyone in the room shocked by his sudden movement. Boss 2 was stunned, unable to comprehend how Liu had appeared so quickly and how he had survived. Boss 2 was trying to determine whether Liu had awakened while assessing the danger. Liu was focused on one goal, whether he could leave the auction house safely. The atmosphere became tense, with all bidders feeling the threat and tension of the moment. The subordinate monkey groups began shouting, demanding Boss 2's release, threatening him with weapons. They warned that they would shoot at the slightest movement, creating an atmosphere of tension. Boss 2 provoked Liu, trying to test his courage and reflexes. Liu concentrated, realizing that the situation required precision and determination. He complied and pulled the trigger, demonstrating control and determination. Boss 2 was stunned by what was happening, trying to comprehend Liu's actions. The room froze, watching the outcome of the conflict, the tension reaching its breaking point. Everyone present felt the threat, fear, and unpredictability of the unfolding events. The shot rang out instantly. Boss 2 fell to the floor with a broken forehead, striking everyone present. The subordinates were shocked, not expecting such an outcome and the leader's immediate death. Panic gripped the hall. People couldn't believe what had happened. The subordinates became enraged and began firing their weapons indiscriminately, seeking revenge. Screams, chaos, and gunshots filled the auction house, turning it into a deadly tension zone. Liu remained calm, assessing the threat and planning his next move. Liu dodged every bullet with lightning speed, moving with incredible speed. He moved forward, preparing for an attack, assessing the position of his opponents. The public and subordinates realized that the enemy was moving too fast to stop. Suddenly, several attackers received precise blows right in the face. Blood gushed from their mouths. The defeated opponents fell to the floor, unable to continue resisting. Liu paused, assessing the remaining enemies, realizing it was unsafe to remain in the auction house. He temporarily halted the attack, giving the enemy a chance to retreat to their group. The defeated began to rise, exchanging glances and discussing their next steps, deciding to inform the boss of what had happened. Liu approached the girl Wu, offering to go together, promising protection and confidence. The girl drew attention to the consequences, reminding him that a group of fighting berserkers should not be provoked. Liu remained in control of the situation, prepared for any unexpected moves by the vanquished. Wang assessed the situation, assuring the girl that the threat from the defeated group was minimal. Wu listened thoughtfully, receiving the offer to join Xiaomo's subordinates. The thought of submission and the possibility of receiving protection and support made her think. She thought about the chances of revenge and the fact that Liu could help her with this. Liu, Wangting, and Wu moved forward, carefully assessing their surroundings. The girl activated her perception, emitting waves that allowed her to feel everything around her. She located 3 fighters from the group of violent berserkers in the alley on the left. Liu nodded, focusing on the attack, assigning Wu to cover his back. He rushed forward with incredible speed, demonstrating lightning-fast reflexes. Wu watched his actions, amazed by his skill and speed. Soon, splashes of blood began to splatter, indicating the instant neutralization of the enemies. Liu remained calm, and the girls approached the place, assessing the consequences. Liu assessed what had happened, realizing that with Wu's help, it had been extremely easy to deal with the violent opponents. He thought about people with repressive abilities, comparing them to humanoid radars, sought after by many. The girl raised the question of what to do next, recalling the murder of the fire monkey, assuming that his brother, the Mad Dragon, would take revenge. They realized that a bounty had already been placed on their heads, and the city would become a hunting ground for them. Liu decided that anyone who tried to kill him would pay a corresponding price. Wang Ting approached Liu, asking questions about the scheduled meeting and its meaning. The girl reported that Zhou Qi asked her to meet, supposedly to apologize, but she hesitated and did not want to go. Liu, recognizing the value of the opportunity Wang had missed, assumed that Zhou Qi was interested in the reward and decided to use the situation to correct his previous mistakes. Van Tien expressed doubt, perplexed as to why this was necessary. The girl listened attentively, assessing the proposal and its meaning. Liu calmly explained the plan, showing her several valuable items that she would be required to transport to a designated location later. She agreed to participate. The headquarters of the rampaging berserkers was filled with people, lined up on both sides of the hall. In the center of the room, the Mad Dragon, the group's leader, sat on a throne, radiating anger and authority. The cup fell to the floor, echoing with a dull sound throughout the room. The leader fiercely criticized his subordinates for their inability to deal with the 3 opponents, expressing disappointment and anger. The warriors stood in fear, feeling the full force of the Mad Dragon's wrath. One of the warriors tried to calm the situation by saying that he had brought someone and suggested a way to lure out the enemies. The Mad Dragon assessed the situation, seeing the young man, and deemed him weak and unreliable. He wondered about the enemy's capabilities. Zhuo reveals that the man who killed Dragon's brother is now accompanying his ex-girlfriend. He plans to use this situation to lure the man into a trap. Suddenly, he is interrupted and the dragon demands a guarantee of the result, showing his wariness and distrust. Zhuo was confident that the girl would not be able to ignore him, smiling and expressing self-confidence. The Mad Dragon showed doubt, threatening Zhou with severe punishment if he made a mistake, and that he would take his kidney. Zhou remained calm. He put his bet forward, assuring that everything would go according to plan. If everything went according to plan, he would get 5 packs of instant noodles. The dragon named a price as a symbol of trust and the terms of the agreement. Zhuo nodded, demonstrating his willingness to fulfill his obligations. Zhuo stood in the middle of the street, visibly tense and focused. 2 figures, Wang Ting and Liu, approached him, cautiously assessing the situation. Zhou noticed Wang Ting happily, his face expressing a mixture of hope and impatience. Wang Ting looked at Zhuo in confusion, wondering the reason for his summons. Zhuo took a step forward, demonstrating a desire to correct past mistakes and regain Wang Ting's trust. Wang slapped Zhuo's outstretched hand sharply, expressing her determination and refusal to accept his words. She told him not to dream about forgiveness, and she made that clear to him last time. Zhou laughed, trying to hide the tension while simultaneously projecting confidence. He acknowledged the opponent's presence, hinting at a threat and impending conflict. The Mad Dragon joined them, laughing to emphasize his cruelty and confidence in control of the situation. The dragon mocked Liu, asking where he was going to hide. Van was surprised by the sudden appearance of the gang and the dragon's readiness to attack, realizing the scale of the threat. Zhuo felt joy and satisfaction from the successful execution of the plan and was noticeably inspired. Wang Ting was shocked to realize that she had been used again, and she couldn't hold back her anger and disappointment. Zhou confidently manipulated the situation, demonstrating his control over Wang Ting. His laughter emphasized his arrogance and enjoyment of the situation. Zhuo approached the Mad Dragon, insisting on a reward for the task he'd completed. He'd been with her for so long, but hadn't tasted it. The dragon agreed. The Mad Dragon prepared to attack, expressing determination and fury, intending to cut Xiaomo and sacrifice to his brother's spirit. Wang was in tears, feeling guilty and afraid about what was happening. Liu remained calm, confident in his plans and prepared for any eventuality. He saw the moment as an opportunity, knowing that the chance to bring all the participants together might not come again. The warriors of the rampaging berserkers group mocked and tried to intimidate him by making noise and showing off their strength. The atmosphere grew tense as the warriors prepared to attack, but Liu remained unperturbed. He prepared a special gift for his friends, an unexpected trap. Wu pressed the remote control and the explosion deafened everyone, leaving confusion among the opponents. Liu Xiaomo declared that he did not come alone and had prepared a special gift for his enemies. The Mad Dragon shouted that it was an ambush and called on his men to leave immediately. Liu Xiaomo just smiled, wondering where they were going to run as explosions erupted everywhere. People flew into the air, screaming and trying to dodge. While Zhuo wondered how this was even possible, Liu activated his magic, extending his hand forward, preparing to strike and take complete control of the situation. The story ended. Liu Xiaomo declared with cold determination that his interlocutor's journey had ended and wished him a safe journey to hell. Zhuo begged for mercy as he fell to the ground. Wang Ting turned to Liu in confusion. Zhuo, crawling towards her, asked her to use her old affection to gain Xiaomo's favor, reminding her that it was he who had once saved her life. Zhuo thought that she would forever remain a toy in his hands. Zhou was surprised when Wang Ting suddenly attacked him, stabbing him in the stomach with a blade, despite all his pleas and assurances of his former affection. Blood gushed from his mouth and he didn't expect such a reaction from her. Wang admitted that Liu was right. She had been weak before. She was grateful that he had taught her a lesson. Liu noted the completion of the task and was about to leave. Suddenly, a voice was heard forbidding him to leave. Liu and Wang Ting were astonished by the appearance of the Mad Dragon, a third-order awakened being. His appearance from the fire and his confidence in his own invulnerability amazed them. The Mad Dragon rushed into attack without hesitation, demonstrating that a simple explosion meant nothing to him. The Mad Dragon was hit by a truck that suddenly appeared on the road. He flew back, startled by the sudden attack. The car stopped, and Wu was behind the wheel. Liu noted that she had arrived just in time. Wang Ting asked if the dragon had died, to which Wu replied that he had only fainted and was actually weak for a third-tier awakened. Liu suggested that they first leave the scene, noting that the noise they were making would certainly attract dangerous people. The car moved forward. Meanwhile, a man holding a document watched them from the roof, he thought, noting that the group of rampaging berserkers had placed a large sum of money on these three, and he told his warriors that it was time to make some good money. The car moved forward and people appeared in the way, shouting indignantly and trying to stop the movement. They swore and demanded to give way, surprised by the speed of the car. The Mad Dragon screamed for no one to interfere with him, threatening those who tried to stop him. The people could only scatter, as they realized that there were berserkers on the road who would not allow anyone to stand in their way. The group of warlike dragons continued their car chase, enjoying the event as if it were a spectacular show. A group of ghost fires joined them, increasing the threat. This time, they were going to collect the reward. Berserkers, war dragons, and ghostly lights formed a force superior to most of the fallen city's fighting forces. People understood that anyone who dared to provoke these united forces was doomed to certain death. The car turned the corner sharply, but the pursuers did not leave, shouting and ordering not to let them get away. Wu noticed in her perception the intercepting trucks at the intersections of the main roads ahead. Liu realized that he had to act quickly and ordered them to accelerate. People were scared and ran in different directions. The team was panicking. Even the increase in speed seemed insufficient. The gates of the fallen city were made of thin steel plates, and the machine couldn't break through them. The situation was becoming critical. Liu assured them they could overcome the obstacle. He explained that he had used air power to eavesdrop on the conversation in the auction room. And I learned that when producing iron gates, the berserker group mixed steel plates with wooden panels. Hearing this, Wu gave the command to prepare for the strike. She stepped on the gas and the car shot forward, preparing to break through the gate. Liu and his team charged straight for the city gates, causing panic. People ahead shouted warnings of imminent disaster, calling them mad. Opponents could not believe that a truck was going to break through the multi-layer steel gates. They thought it was impossible. The Mad Dragon, realizing that Liu knew the secret of the gate's weakness, tried to figure out what was going on. But other than him and his brother, all the participants who might have known about this had already been eliminated. Now Wu could only believe in Xiao Mo, she thought while driving. She pressed the gas pedal to the floor. Having the opportunity to die together with Xiao Mo, Wang felt a great relief as he hugged Liu. Now is the perfect time, Liu thought, and pressed the red button. Shoot, Liu commanded. The missiles were fired from the car and flew towards the gate. There was a powerful explosion. Damn, what's going on? People screamed. The city gates had indeed been destroyed. The smoke cleared, and the car leaped forward, driving through the gate. People were shocked. Everything worked out. Wu was surprised, sitting behind the wheel. Great, we did it, Liu said. The real game is just beginning. It was impossible. They escaped right under their noses, the enemy marveled. They somehow blew up the city gates. No one stopped them. If the gates were blown up, it means that zombies rushed into the city. Stop them, the warriors cried. Fortunately, they are the weakest of them. We must close the gates quickly. Hurry, berserkers, don't fall behind. We must finish off these bastards, the mad dragon cried. Follow the boss. The subordinates' voices could be heard. The car sped forward, scattering people who got in its way. It was a group of rampaging berserkers. These guys are truly crazy, people thought. The warriors begin to shoot. No matter the cost, they must kill this child. This kid is just a tier 2 awakened with the power of a group of berserkers. He'll probably be dead. The whole car was covered in blood spatter. Is it a good thing they broke down the city gates? Wang asked. There are still many innocent people in the city, the girl said. High-level zombies outside the fallen city are regularly exterminated, and ordinary zombies won't be able to do anything. Don't worry, Liu explained. And they should thank him for helping them unravel the hidden danger. Otherwise, sooner or later, these zombies would have broken into the fallen city, Liu said. Wang looked at him, thinking about his words. Liu pulled a bloody cloth from his backpack. Wang Ting asked what he intended to do with the clothes. It was a bit crazy, but he tore the fabric into pieces and threw them out of the car. The zombies were getting closer. There was blood everywhere, but Liu's car continued to move forward, preventing her pursuers from catching up. Liu decided that he would not be caught so easily by his pursuers. The team of monkeys moved forward in their car, when one of them noticed Liu's truck through a magnifying glass and was surprised. The car stood motionless, apparently out of fuel. The mad dragon was delighted and ordered that they be surrounded quickly. Liu sat on the bloody truck, motionless despite the taunts of his enemies. They wondered why he didn't run away and whether he had run out of gas. They threatened him with death. They condemned his insolence against a group of rampaging berserkers. Liu just chuckled at their slowness. The bandits discussed how, after his murder, they would be able to take possession of both girls, considering him to have overestimated himself and to think that he was an important figure. The mad dragon declared that the boy was surrounded, and now they would be able to avenge their people. Liu asked if they were really surrounded, as he had thought it was the other way around. The mad dragon laughed and said he was out of his mind with fear. The bandits whispered among themselves that this guy was clearly scared and his mind was no longer clear. The subordinates urged the boss to stop chattering and kill the brat immediately. The mad dragon said that Liu had already managed to fool him once, but he wouldn't be caught this time. Before arriving, he'd made a special check to make sure there were no bombs nearby. Liu noted that the dragon had indeed become smarter and had not forgotten to check for traps. But then he added that, while checking all this, he had missed something, pointing behind his back. The mad dragon looked around in surprise and saw that they were surrounded by zombies. Liu said that they were the ones surrounded, not him. The fighters screamed, realizing that this was a trap, because in front of them was not a small group, but a whole wave of undead. The zombies closed in on all sides. People started shouting that they had to shoot and stop them at any cost. Liu asked the dragon if he liked the surprise he had prepared. Dragon asked if Liu had actually lured the zombies to that spot with the scent of blood. Liu replied that some of Dragon's men had died when the explosions occurred, and he happened to have a few things soaked in fresh blood. He added that it was not bad. The dragon exclaimed that Liu was crazy and declared that they had nothing more to discuss. He ordered his men to leave before they were completely surrounded. At that moment, Liu jumped off the truck and found himself behind the dragon. He asked if he wanted to leave and how about him and swung his weapon. The dragon cried out and counterattacked with a blow from his huge sword. Liu and the mad dragon came face to face. The dragon asked if Liu didn't want to survive, because once the wave of undead finally surrounded them, everyone would die. Liu replied that he didn't care, as he had promised Wu Nan to help destroy the group of rampaging berserkers, and he intended to fulfill his promise. The girl cried, thinking that Xiaomo was doing all this for her. Wang understood that in their time, it was difficult to meet a man like him. Wang Ting said that she was lucky, and she decided that this was why she followed him and was ready to give him everything she had. The Mad Dragon said that since Liu Xiaomo was seeking death himself, he would first kill him and then get out of here. He ordered Bao Qitu to take the brothers and cut a path through the undead, adding that he would meet them there after his victory. The fighters agreed. They moved forward shouting to kill the zombies and hold them off while the boss dealt with Liu. The berserker's car drove forward, crashing into a crowd of zombies and firing its cannons. Liu grinned and asked if the Mad Dragon had anything in his head other than brawn. He added that, since he dared to come here, he wouldn't have a chance to escape. The Mad Dragon replied that he wasn't afraid of Liu Xiaomo at all. He claimed that it wasn't they who had been caught in the undead wave, but rather that the zombies had fallen into their hands. He was confident that with their numbers and firepower, they could handle them and use the situation to their advantage. Liu replied that they did indeed have more people, but only for now. He gave the order to Wang An to launch. The girl pressed a button in the car, and the rockets shot up. The dragon shouted to his men to hide behind the trucks. Liu laughed. He said they wouldn't be able to hide because everything had been specially prepared. He ordered them to expect an attack from the east and west. Explosions thundered in the air. Everyone was surprised. They weren't missiles. The bandits noticed the slippery liquid and its disgusting smell. They realized it was urine. The dragon was also surprised. Liu explained that he collected this liquid from the fallen city and gave it to them. He noted that the smell of human urine strongly stimulates the zombies' rage. Since the enemies were close to the zombies, they were in mortal danger. The zombies began to attack in a rage. The dragon ordered to shoot and destroy them, but the fighters were paralyzed by the strong smell and tried to quickly hide in the car. People found it difficult to resist and they cried out for help from the boss. The fighters screamed, begging them not to come near them, but the zombies attacked mercilessly, destroying everyone. Explosions echoed, and the dragon saw his warriors die. He screamed their names, watching in horror as they died. Wu turned to him from behind, noting that he now knew what it was like to have your brothers and friends die, asking if he could experience grief. The Mad Dragon swung his sword in rage. The Mad Dragon, in rage and despair, screamed that he would kill her. Suddenly Liu appeared, saying that his opponent was him. The Mad Dragon continued to attack, delivering fiery blows. Liu said that as long as he was here, he would not allow him to kill his people. The dragon dealt a powerful blow, saying that in this case, Liu was finished. Liu, who was thrown back, realized that his opponent was a third-tier awakened being, and that his strength was not to be underestimated. Liu Xiaomo stood up despite the blow, and the girls ran up to him, worried about his condition. The third-tier awakened Mad Dragon was incredibly powerful. He attacked furiously, shouting about revenge for his dead brothers and the intention to burn Xiaomo to the ground. The dragon released a fiery force, creating a whirlwind of fire that rushed towards Liu and the girls. Liu quickly grabbed the girls and pushed them out of harm's way. They were shocked by his reaction. The dragon mockingly asked if Liu would be able to dodge a second or third blow. Liu calmly replied that he had no intention of avoiding his attacks and was prepared to meet them head-on. Since you are so eager to die, he will soon send him to reunite with his brothers, he said. The girls screamed at Xiaomo not to take any risks, but Liu assured them that everything would be fine and rushed to attack. He summoned the Mad Dragon to accept death. The dragon pointed the glowing fire in his hand at him. The battle began. The dragon tried to strike Liu down, but he was already behind him and swung his blade, shouting, "Die!" Liu swung and struck, but the dragon only smiled. Liu realized that he couldn't hit him easily. The dragon held the sword tightly. When the dragon swung and shouted, "Go to hell!" Liu managed to jump back in time, dodging the blow. Liu pointed to the red light and said that this was the skill of a third-order awakened dragon. The dragon, smiling, stated that while it was in the state of flame, the surface of its body would solidify, forming a layer of high-temperature fire. He could withstand not only knife strikes but also bullets. As long as this ability was active, Liu had no chance. Liu calmly replied that he liked to challenge the impossible, and his eyes glowed blue. Energy emanated from Liu's body, blue waves surrounding him. The dragon laughed and said he would hack at Liu until he was satisfied. Liu responded by asking if it was possible to cut through the dragon's fire-enhanced skin. He went on the attack. Swords flew straight at the dragon, but it insisted that techniques of that level did not work on it. Wang Ting and the girl watched the scene in surprise. Not understanding why Liu had still not been able to strike the mad dragon and wondering what they should do now, Wu pointed out that Xiaomo had to aim for a weak spot and attack. Otherwise, he had no chance of breaking through the mad dragon's defense. However, he was now attacking chaotically, without a plan. Liu caught his breath and admitted that the dragon was stronger than he thought. The dragon declared that until its flames died out, the defense could not be broken. Liu responded by asking if the flames had already died out. The dragon laughed and declared that his flame had not gone out. But suddenly, he became frightened and surprised, noticing that the glow of his body had disappeared, and began to ask himself in panic where his flame was and why it did not come out. Liu explained that oxygen was needed to keep the flame burning, and his supernatural power was linked to air, so the dragon's flame was useless. Liu explained that he gradually removed oxygen from certain areas, preventing the dragon fire from igniting. The dragon was furious and couldn't believe what was happening, accusing Liu of lying. Liu attacked with his blade, striking, and soon the dragon fell to his knees, blood spurting from his throat. The Third Order awakened. One died in such a way that everyone was amazed. Shiomu won, and Wang Ting was happy. Wu noted the death of the mad dragon, adding that revenge had finally been achieved. Suddenly, the dragon's body glowed with golden light, and the light struck straight at Liu. He screamed in surprise. A system message from Dinny appeared. Congratulations on killing the awakened Third Order and the award of 100 evolution points. Liu realized that the system had indeed awarded him a large number of points for destroying a strong opponent. The zombies kept coming closer, but Liu stood there, enveloped in golden fiery energy. He drove them away with shouts and blows. He gave orders to the girls to retreat along a pre-planned route. The girls, sitting in the car, hastily followed the directions. Liu jumped onto the car on Wang Ting's command and ordered the explosives buried in advance to be detonated. Vantine activated the control panel, and a series of explosions rumbled across the desert, destroying the zombies and allowing the car to continue moving. The road was clear, and Liu shouted to move forward. The car took off, scattering the remaining zombies to the sides. Concubine Su watched what was happening from a high cliff. She wondered if Liu could actually kill the mad dragon and thought it would be interesting to fight him. The girl pulled out a huge bazooka, took aim, and pulled the trigger with a grin. The missile shot forward, heading toward its target. She hoped that Liu would like the special big surprise she had planned for him. Suddenly, Liu became alert when he saw something in the sky. Wu noted that it was a missile, and it was flying towards them. Liu said he would take care of it and jumped into the sky. Wang was worried, thinking that he was acting recklessly, but Liu felt he had to do it. Liu was able to react in time to the approaching missile and accurately hit it with his dagger. It exploded in the air. There was smoke everywhere. Nothing could be seen. Van was worried. Wu didn't understand what was happening or who fired the missile. Su sat bored on the rock, disappointed that he had died so quickly. Su was surprised by the blade appearing from the fog, and an unexpected blow with a sword on the cheek. It crashed into the rock just behind her. She was amazed at how suddenly he was there and neutralized her threat. Liu laughed, saying that the rocket was a dangerous thing and she shouldn't be playing with them at that age. Su was amazed that Liu survived her big baby's powerful attack. Noting his strength, she liked to play against the strong. She, in turn, decided to continue the game and took out 2 Uzi blasters, offering to test them against him. Liu confidently stated that such a weapon was useless against him, and he offered Su to surrender, while simultaneously activating his magic. Su was not going to give up, believing that Liu was dreaming too much. Su activated both of her blasters and explosions erupted, directed at Liu. She asked the little girls to shoot him dead. He came under fire, but the bullets missed their target. The girl was surprised and assumed that it was a protective layer of energy and air surrounding Liu. Liu assessed the situation and realized Su's attacks wouldn't penetrate his defense. He declared her cuties powerless and charged, moving toward his opponent. Liu noted that it was time for her to stop. Su noted that she would not allow her to do this. Liu rushed to attack, and Su accurately prepared a rabbit grenade. But he was already behind her. Liu pinched Su. The grenade slipped from her hands, but Liu managed to grab her and held her with a grin. Liu apologized. Now that he had her bomb in his hand, she had no chance against him. Liu was quicker, foiling her plan at the last moment. Liu held the grenade and looked at Su, who remained calm, keeping the pin in sight, suggesting that he take a closer look. The explosive surprise led to an unexpected ending. Liu threw the grenade into the distance, cursing. Liu was amazed by Su's speed, barely registering her movements. The girl was truly agile. She must be awakened. A sudden explosion shook the air. The shockwave threw Sue back, and she dropped to her knees to catch her breath. Liu's reaction was so fast that she didn't have time to react to his throw. The girl froze when a dagger suddenly appeared near her face. The threat became real and dangerous. The situation escalated. Liu stood with a dagger. He understood that one lesson was not enough for her. It was better to just kill her. Sue just smiled. She was confident and didn't hide the mini-bomb implanted in her body. The mini-bomb was ready to explode when her pulse stopped, capable of devastating the surrounding area. She wasn't afraid to die, standing in the midst of danger, confident in her strength and skills. Liu was surprised. Concubine Sue turned out to be one of the famous bounty hunters in the Fallen City. Her abilities enhance firearms, making her a valuable ally to his team. Liu considered the possibility of collaboration, assessing her strength and potential within the team. Sue offered to let her go if he was afraid to die. Liu offered to join his team. He has a lot of big babies. He thought. There were rumors that Concubine Sue was a gun maniac. It shouldn't be a problem to get her to join them. Previously, boys teased her by suggesting that she show off her big baby, which enraged Sue. The girl abruptly rejected any suggestions or insults. She made it clear that she would not tolerate disrespect and would stay away from such people. Liu was surprised by her reaction. Sue doesn't like bazookas, although he calls them big babies. Sue screamed for him to stay away, rejecting any attempts to join her team to satisfy his disgusting desires. Liu was surprised by her anger, trying to understand how she had misunderstood his words. Sue stated that she had seen many like him, and if not for his abilities, she would have destroyed him with a missile launcher. Suddenly, Vantan and Wu appeared from behind, their approach causing everyone to become agitated. The girls were worried. Wang Ting hurriedly checked if Xiaomu was okay, causing anxiety and tension. Concubine Sue was amazed by Xiaomo's size and strength, and the surprise was not hidden in her eyes. The girls approached Xiaomo, checking if he was hurt, causing tension. Sue couldn't hide her admiration for Xiaomo's slender legs and appearance, her surprise growing. The girls surrounded him and started chattering. They were very worried. Liu reminded him of the importance of his partners and the situation, asking whether he needed to look after a child like Sue with partners like hers. He made her feel irritated and angry inside. Sue was indignant at Liu's words, insisting that she was an adult and advising him to open his eyes wider. Wu was surprised and asked where this child came from. Vantine was sure that she was hungry, handing her a candy and showing concern for her condition, calling her little one. Wang Ting noticed that his little sister was refusing the sweet candy, showing capriciousness and stubbornness. The girl sank to her knees, admitting defeat and exhaustion. Her emotions overwhelmed everyone around her. Sue burst into tears, admitting she had lost. Liu asked if Sue had decided to join his team, offering a powerful weapon. He thought about the system store, where you could choose any weapon for the points you had. He could provide her with any of them. Sue reacted with doubt to the promise of super powerful guns, not believing in Liu's capabilities. Liu smiled briefly, preparing a weapons demonstration to prove his point. Sue watched, assessing his actions. A message appeared on the screen about the available weapons that can be obtained right now. Liu focused on the screen where a variety of weapons were displayed for him to choose from. A message appeared. The user currently has 100 points. He chose the 5th generation M78 Dragon rocket launcher, a high-class weapon designed for a single soldier and priced at 70 points in the system. Liu appreciated the power of the installation, smiled, and pressed the buy button, confirming his choice. Wu turned around and was struck by the strange behavior of the zombies surrounding their truck. Wan Ting noticed that the zombies were gathering in a dangerous cluster again, causing alarm among the girls. Suddenly, there was an explosion, and the girls were stunned by what was happening, frozen with surprise. A red-eyed monster, a mutated zombie, emerged from the smoke, attracting the attention of the others. Wan Ting explained that they were attracted by the large number of zombies in the area. Blood Claw, one of the 3 most powerful mutated zombies. Wu asked what to do, and whether it was time to retreat, realizing the futility of conventional weapons. Sue watched Blood Claw, a rare mutant, with burning eyes and kept her bazooka at the ready. The girl noted that a crystal from a zombie's brain could be worth a lot of money, and while preparing for the attack, she didn't think she would meet him here. Sue decided to act, believing it was her time to show strength and courage. Liu stopped her, surprising her with his intervention and interrupting her attack on Blood Claw. Sue was shocked when she saw the weapon in Liu's hands, not understanding how he got such a gun. Liu showed off the big baby, explaining to Su that its power was much greater than she expected. Su was surprised, doubting that the large-looking gun would actually be effective in practice. Liu reassured her with a smile and aimed the cannon, preparing to demonstrate its power against the monster. The blood claw growled and advanced, slamming into the ground and causing a devastating blast wave. His eyes glowed red, and the monster lunged forward, causing alarm in Vantine and the other girls. Liu was confident in his actions and knew how to deal with the monster, preparing the cannon to fire. He pressed the red button on the bazooka, and the weapon glowed a bright red light, ready to attack. The cannon fired straight at Bloodclaw, blinding everyone with a powerful red glow. Su was shocked by the force of the energy blast, which was incredibly powerful. The zombie was stunned, growled in pain, and disappeared in a bright flash, leaving everyone in surprise. A huge hole in the ground gaped in front of them, left by Liu's powerful shot, striking everyone around. Liu placed the cannon on the ground, demonstrating its power and effectiveness, ready for further action. Su was amazed and delighted, jumping up and down in admiration at the weapon she saw. Liu offered the launcher in exchange for joining his team, testing Su's resolve. Su accepted the challenge, grabbing Liu's head and claiming that she would do anything until she got the gun. Liu raised his weapon high, but Su stubbornly refused to come down, demanding the return of the big baby. The girls watched Liu and Su, amazed at their actions in the midst of chaos and danger around them. Wu reminded them that they hadn't yet dealt with the influx of corpses, and they had caused such a mess here. Vantine just laughed, enjoying the moment, as if returning to the peaceful world before the apocalypse. Night fell. The stars shone in the sky, and the group pitched tents near the truck, sitting around the fire. Liu suggested they wait out the night here, explaining that the heights protected them from regular zombies. He assigned the duties, declaring himself first and ordering the others to go and rest. Su was interested in her big baby, testing Liu's trust in her. Liu refused to fully hand over the gun until he was sure of Su's reliability, ordering the others to go to bed. Su was seething with anger, accusing Liu of not giving up the gun on a whim, and headed towards her tent. The other girls decided to go to bed too, following her example. Wu and Wang Tim thought that after everyone fell asleep, they would go to Xiaomo. In the truck, Liu reflected on his combat team, which had grown to 3 members in just a few days. He realized the expansion was proceeding faster than expected, and I thought about going to a mysterious research institute. Suddenly, the truck door opened and Wu appeared on the threshold, causing Liu to be surprised. Liu was surprised by her appearance and immediately asked why she was there. Wu thanked Liu for his help in fighting the Mad Dragon, noting the importance of his support. Liu calmly said that he had to help, since she was part of his squad. He suggested they all go to bed early, understanding that the day had been long and stressful. The girl admitted that she was obliged to thank the one who helped her achieve her goal by showing trust in Liu. He was taken aback, saying that this was not good, and the others were not so far away and could come. She checked that the others were asleep and turned to Liu for care and support. She noted that she had no one and asked him to be gentle with her. Liu understood the situation and mentally noted that the post-apocalyptic world required caution and mutual assistance. There was a knock on the window and Wang Ting called out to Xiaomo to check if she was in the car. Liu was shocked to see Wang Ting, surprised by her sudden appearance and not knowing what to do. Wang Ting tried to open the door, wanting to ask Liu for something. Wu screamed, creating a chaotic and tense atmosphere, asking what to do. Liu ordered the girl to hide behind the seat to keep her safe and reduce the stress of the situation. Wang Ting asked Xiaomo about his condition, noticing that he was sweating. He justified it by saying it was stuffy in the car. Liu thought about leadership and authority, realizing that any mistakes in front of his subordinates could make it difficult to manage the team. Wu hid behind the chair, thinking about how awkward it would be if Vantine saw this scene. She wondered why Wang Ting had come to Xiaomo in the middle of the night, sensing the strangeness of the situation. She thought to herself that this was similar to her own behavior. Liu noticed that the car was too stuffy and suggested going outside to make everyone more comfortable. He knew that if they stayed inside, Wu would continue to be afraid. Liu was thinking about a way to get Wang Ting out safely to maintain calm and control of the situation. Vantine refused to go out and suggested discussing everything here so as not to disturb the others. She noted that going outside might accidentally wake everyone. Liu was surprised when comparing Wang Ting's behavior with Wu Nan's and noted the internal difficulties of being a man in this situation. Liu coughed and reminded Wang Ting that they were still in the wilderness and the situation was not safe. Wang Ting was surprised and a little embarrassed when Liu made a remark about inappropriate behavior. She looked at herself and realized that she was dressed revealingly. She explained that she had come to him for help in becoming awakened and stronger, understanding her limitations. Vanting admitted that she was too weak to help Liu now, but she wanted to develop and become stronger. Liu let out a breath, realizing that Wang Ting simply wanted to become awakened, and Wu was watching the proceedings. Vanting moved closer to Liu, confirming her willingness to learn and develop in different ways if that was what he wanted. She noted that she will always be ready. Liu noted that today might not be the best day for training and practice. Vanting replied that she saw no reason to delay and was ready to act right now. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, startling Wang. Liu grew nervous, trying to figure out who had come and how to handle the situation. Su called out to Xiaomo to check if she was there, creating a tense atmosphere. Liu didn't understand what she was doing here. Wang was afraid of being seen in a vulnerable position and decided to hide, worried about herself. Liu was at a loss as to how to deal with the sudden situation and protect everyone around him. Wang looked behind the seat, hiding and trying to escape from Su, who suddenly appeared. She asked Xiaomo to cover for her, showing anxiety and haste. Liu shouted, warning that hiding could be dangerous, but it was too late. The door opened, and Su appeared on the threshold, surprised by what was happening. Su asked Xiaomo what he was doing while watching him. It was late at night, and Su noticed that Xiaomo might be feeling lonely as she assessed the situation. She was pondering how to access the Dragon Flame missile launcher. Liu realized that the situation had been exposed, and everyone now understood each other's true intentions. Su didn't understand what exactly Liu meant by asking questions about the revealed events. Behind the seat, Wang Ting was surprised to notice the unexpected presence of people in the car. She screamed, trying to figure out who exactly was nearby. Wu Nan introduced herself and reassured Wang Ting, explaining who she was and why she was there. Liu was worried, observing the situation and trying to understand how everyone had gathered here at once. Su was shocked to see that everyone was in the same room and expressed surprise at what was happening. Su loudly expressed her irritation and indignation, comically emphasizing the unexpectedness of the situation by calling Liu a pervert. Liu became angry and hit Su on the head, blaming her for everything and demanding that she shut up. Su held the bump on her head, shocked by the unexpected blow in the situation. The next morning, the truck drove forward and the zombies were nearby, creating constant tension. Liu sat on the roof, watching the road, and the girls remained in the cabin, anxiously monitoring their surroundings. Wu thought about last night, noticing that everyone was confused. Vantin felt humiliated, surprised by Wu's presence there and the past events. Su was surprised by Xiaomo's strength, noting that he could withstand two at once, and laughed. The girls looked at her, surprised by her comments and reaction to what was happening. Wu asked what she was talking about, trying to clarify the conversation. Wang Ting explained that there was nothing between her and Xiaomo, trying to calm the others down. Su noted that there was nothing to be ashamed of, because in a post-apocalyptic world, such things happen often, and later one could create a harem group. The truck stopped abruptly, and Su slammed into the window, reacting to the sudden braking. Su was indignant at the abrupt stop and motioned for Wu to focus on the road. She simply said, "Why overreact so much?" Su shouted. "It's not because of her. Look ahead," Wu said. Su looked out the window, noticing a crowd of zombies and a lot of cars and equipment on the streets. The flag featured a skull with two swords, adding to the symbolism of the dangerous group. Wang Ting wondered why there were so many zombies here, assessing the danger around her. Su explained that this was the main route to the outside world of Fallen Leaf City, making escape impossible. Liu looked ahead. Wu turned to him, trying to figure out what to do next in this critical situation. Liu ordered the car to leave, sensing a suspicious situation. He noticed the flag and thought it might be the Legion of Assassins, heightening the tension. Vantin opened the car doors, preparing to leave, when suddenly an arrow appeared in the sky. The arrow flew straight towards Vantin, causing instant alarm and the need to act quickly. Liu shouted a warning to Wang Ting and leaped forward, cutting the arrow with his blade in midair. Wang Ting took Xiaomo's hand, frightened by the danger that passed by. Liu yelled at the attacking Legion of Assassins, daring them to come out and try to protect everyone and fight back. The bandits appeared laughing, and one of them boasted about the chance to take several girls for his master. One of the guys noted the high cost of the chariot and thought that they were very lucky today. Another said that they were only interested in girls and would fight anyone who tried to steal them. Sue reacted with disgust, finding their behavior disgusting. Wu activated her power, calculating that there were only 18 attackers. Liu noted the courage of his opponents and decided to use the situation to gain experience. He thought about the possibility of capturing the leader and obtaining valuable information. Liu was 1 against 4, and the bandit noted that the arrow was merely a test. He declared that their captain was a Wind Peak Awakener, capable of killing with a single arrow. Liu noted that the second-rank Wind Awakener was an expert with a bow and arrow. He acknowledged his skill, and Liu decided to play with them in preparation for battle. He gave them 3 tries, challenging them to a confrontation, and the bandit, in fear, shouted out his threat. Liu noted that he only needed to hit the bandit with 1 arrow. The bandit shouted that he would kill him. The bandit grabbed his bow and asked Liu if he was seeking death by preparing to attack. Liu responded calmly, showing no fear, hinting at his confidence. He declared that he was giving him a chance to survive, his words threatening. The bandit was amazed, asking if he still dared to speak, which gave him a chance to survive. He noted that Liu would pay for this. An arrow flew at Liu, but he easily dodged it, smiling, demonstrating his skill. But the arrow moved too slowly for Liu. The bandit was surprised to see how easily Liu dodged and returned to his original position. The bandits began discussing what had happened, amazed that Liu had dodged the captain's shot. They marveled at his skill, considering him dangerous and noticing that he was awakened. However, the bandits decided not to panic, believing the captain wasn't fighting at full strength. They advised the young man not to be too proud of his success, emphasizing the disparity in their strength levels. Su watched Liu Xiaomu, surprised by his decision to use the 3-arrow plan. She noted that he could easily have dealt with Lisik with a single blow, but he chose a different approach. Compared to before, Su noticed that Liu's speed had increased significantly. She thought this guy was getting stronger and stronger each time. Wu was surprised, wondering if Xiaomo wanted to gradually destroy the opponent's spirit. Wang Ting explained that Xiaomo is merciless to his enemies and acts purposefully. Liu noticed that the first arrow had missed and reminded him that there were only 2 attempts left. He thought that he needed to get closer to get an accurate hit and stop the enemy with 1 blow. Liu realized that a mistake could allow Lisik to signal the Death Army, so he had to act carefully. Lisik shouted that he would destroy Liu in 1 fell swoop and aimed arrows at him, showing rage. He wanted to intimidate his subordinates, showing that no one dared to oppose him. 4 arrows flew straight towards Liu, creating a dangerous and tense situation. Liu was surprised but concentrated, dodging all the arrows. The arrows hit the ground, missing, and the tension temporarily eased. Liu chuckled and noted his opponent's weakness, wondering how he became captain. He thought the distance was almost enough to break the enemy. Lisik noted that this guy was really strong. He amazed the bandits with his skill. The bandits were surprised and wondered if their captain would lose. Liu asked if they wanted to die first. Lisik gripped the weapon and called out to Liu, showing how he had become the commander and was preparing to attack. A glow appeared around him, and he released many arrows, striking with the spectacle of the battle. Liu was surprised to see the radiance and speed of Lisik's attacks. Lisik laughed, assuring that now Liu would not be able to dodge. The bandits reflected on the commander's brutal signature move and were amazed at his strength. They believed the boy was doomed to defeat, but were glad they hadn't fled themselves. Everything ahead was shrouded in fog, adding to the tense atmosphere of the battle. Lisik peered into the smoke, which began to dissipate, revealing a huge hole in the ground. Everyone was asking what happened to the guy and how the events happened. Liu shouted from behind Lisik, warning him not to move and threatening him with a blade. Lisik was surprised, not understanding how Liu had managed to get to him so unexpectedly. Enraged, Lisik tried to strike, but Liu dodged. He talked too much and Liu kicked him, attacking instantly. The 3rd salvo was finished, and Liu declared that Lisik's life was now in his hands. Lisik screamed, begging not to kill him, and offered information about Tulu's troops. He promised to tell about the location of their main forces and the reasons for the appearance of the madmen. Liu inquired about the details to understand how to cross the bridge and use the data. Lisik pressed the red button on the remote control to sound the alarm, hoping to doom the boy. Liu noticed that Lisik's hand was shaking slightly and paid attention to it. He asked Lisik what was happening to him and why he was so tense. Liu threw the blade and blood spattered around. He left Lysik without a hand holding the button. Lysik screamed in pain, squeezing his remaining hand and ordering the main forces of the Legion to gather. The bandits began to disperse in panic, realizing that the enemy was too fast and dangerous. Liu asked Su to help him deal with the scumbags together with Wu Nan. Su replied that agreeing to be in the squad did not mean she would obey, emphasizing her independence. She stated that she was testing Liu just as he was testing her, creating a competitive dynamic. Liu told Su not to do anything rash, observing her actions. He wanted to give her the opportunity to play with the great treasure as an incentive. Su calmly replied that she could handle a large group of opponents on her own. She picked up the bazooka and fired, sending the bandits flying into the air from the explosion. The bandits screamed, begging for mercy, frightened by her strength and determination. They should have avoided meeting such masters long ago. They understood their mistake. Wu noted that the princess was full of energy, and her participation was no longer required. Lysik lay on the floor after the defeat, without the strength to resist. Liu approached him and confronted him, demanding immediate disclosure of information about Tulu's forces. He warned Lysik not to try to lie, hinting at the consequences. Lysik agreed to tell everything, but first asked for a promise that he would be released. Liu thrust his blade into the ground next to Lysik, demonstrating his threat and control of the situation. Lysik was shocked and realized that he had to tell the truth to save himself. Liu threatened to cut off all 5 limbs if Lysik didn't reveal the information. Lysik reported that a new regiment had appeared in Tula, over 1,000 men and over 200 awakened. He explained that the bridge had been blocked to attract madmen who were planned to be used in the sacrifice. Lysik added that he was only a platoon commander and didn't know any other details. Liu reflected on the Tulu troops, their strength and atrocities, comparing them to what was happening around the city of Loi. He noted that the passage was blocked and wondered about their purpose in the area. Lysik stated that he had told them everything he knew and asked if he could leave. He turned and ran into the distance, cursing the guy for his severed hand. Lysik thought about returning with an army to kill Liu and deal with his girlfriend. Suddenly, Lysik felt a strong pain. Blood spattered. There was a dagger in his chest. Liu threw the dagger straight into the back, surprising Lysik with his determination. Lysik realized that Liu had not promised to let him go, and fell to the ground covered in blood. Before falling, Lysik drew an inscription in the sand with his finger, leaving a sign of his last will. Liu walked over to draw his dagger, declaring that traitors deserved to die. Liu was surprised when a bright light appeared from Lysik's body, attracting his attention. He took the green ball out of his body. It immediately dissolved in his hand, causing amazement. Liu realized that it was the seed of the awakening plant, appreciating its value. He urgently shouted to the girls that they had been discovered and that they needed to leave immediately. The girls agreed and ran to the car, ready for a quick retreat. At the Tulu army camp, tents were pitched near vehicles, flags fluttering in the wind, creating an uneasy atmosphere. The patrol encountered a combat unit yesterday, and after putting up a fight, all the men died. Some of the women survived, but the men remarked that they were unlucky, having encountered madmen. One of them admitted he'd been holding back for days, restraining himself from violence. The boys noted that their play wasn't all that violent, and several women survived. Afen wondered why the leader had ordered the Chloe passage blocked, trying to understand the strategy. Chloe hadn't responded in the last few days, and Ethan found this odd. Suddenly, a green glow appeared, attracting Effen's attention. He shouted that the commander of the 5th suspected squad had died. Ethan remembered that the commander was a level 2 awakened, quite powerful. He thought that the person who killed him must be exceptionally strong. Effen thought that they had been here for a long time and his endurance was gradually wearing thin. He noted that it was time to move forward and not waste time. Meanwhile, the truck was racing through the desert, and the girls and Liu were inside. Sue was indignant, asking why she had to sit in the back when others were in front. She became angry, declaring that she wanted to sit in the front, creating a tense atmosphere. Liu told Sue to be quiet, as Tulu's men could appear at any moment, and asked her to remain quiet. Sue began to moan and assured her that she wasn't afraid. They would fight back immediately. Liu admitted that their forces were still small and that it would be difficult to defeat a large army. He was thinking about ways to attract more people. Wang was thinking about how to become stronger so as not to drag Xiaomo into this. Wu looked out the window and noticed someone was catching up behind the car. She screamed, warning everyone. Liu looked into the distance in surprise, amazed at how quickly they appeared. The car rushed forward at full speed, and the pursuers persistently followed on its heels. Afen shouted with a smile that the prey was right in front of them and ordered that they not be allowed to escape. The adversaries laughed joyfully, threatening to flay them and keep the women for themselves. They shouted that it was hunting time, creating an atmosphere of mortal danger. Effen took out his bazooka and announced that he would first give them a gift in preparation for the attack. Effen fired a rocket. Wu screamed, warning everyone, seeing this in the mirror. Su climbed onto the roof, bazooka in hand, ready to attack. She assured everyone that not a single missile would hit, keeping the situation under control. Su fired, and a powerful explosion echoed in the sky, striking everyone around. She proudly declared that she was a master of her craft when it came to the great treasure. The bandits asked Su if she liked the treasure, testing her reaction. Ethan, grinning, said he'd have his fill of digging around with it, threatening to attack. He ordered the gang to launch rockets, reveling in the chaos around them. Effen laughed, declaring that the more he liked a person, the less he offended them. Su screamed, outraged by the impudence and arrogance of her opponents. Effen asked how the enemy would cover themselves now, laughing as the rockets shot up into the air. He shouted, "Fire for me," and watched as all the guns fired their shells. Su looked at the missiles in horror and screamed for Liu Xiaomo's help, unable to cope with the attack. Liu appeared on the roof of the car, laughing at the situation and controlling the fight. He mockingly noted that Su couldn't give up the treasure to anyone. Liu noted that Su still ended up calling out to his uncle Liu by activating his magic. Liu activated the air wall. The missiles exploded, but the shield protected the vehicle completely. Effen was surprised. What was this blue wall of air? All their missiles stopped on it. He noticed that this boy was also awakened and became wary. The boy said the leader was here, which meant the boy was doomed. Effen jumped off the car and headed towards Liu, noting that he was interested in him. Liu calmly said that he was not interested in men, demonstrating confidence and detachment. Liu jumped from the car and noted that they were faster than them and would be unable to escape their pursuers. He told Su to go ahead while he held off the enemy so the others could escape. Su, on the roof, agreed and gave him a thumbs up, telling him to be careful. Liu emphasized that the treasure remained in the car and that Su was responsible for the safety of Wang Ting and Wu Nan. The girl confidently declared that she was taking the lead role as the car drove away into the distance. Vanting looked out of the window and told Liu to be sure to come back. Effen became angry, asking how they dared to leave without his permission. He shouted at his subordinates to bring the girls to him and not let them go. They assured their boss that they would definitely seize the girls, preparing for a chase. The guys rushed after the car, and Ethan, with a grin, promised to show them what a real man is. Liu became angry and asked if they wanted to catch up with him, showing confidence. He used his power to activate an air wall in front of the cars. Suddenly, there was an explosion, and the cars crashed into the wall, unable to cope with the obstacle. The bandits shouted that they couldn't chase them anymore and, in a panic, lost control. They ordered the boy's life to be killed first, believing his life was unimportant. Liu took a breath and thought that constantly displaying his abilities at this level was a bit tiring. Even noticed that he was constantly using his signature moves to the limit of his power. Liu chuckled and said that this would be enough to deal with little fish like them. He took out a dagger and swung it, showing that the matter was serious and he was ready to fight. He drew a line in the sand and declared that anyone who crossed it would die. Effen noticed that the situation was dire and ordered his subordinates to play with Liu. He thought the guy was not bad, and first, he needed to wear him out to get information. The subordinates agreed, laughing, and approached Liu, ready to attack. They decided to take advantage of Liu's still unsettled state to kill him. Liu said, "Exterminate," with a calm expression and concentrated, preparing to begin the battle. Liu charged forward, striking all his opponents at once. In the blink of an eye, blood splattered everywhere and the enemies screamed in pain. Everyone was lying on the floor, stunned by the sudden attack, unable to react. The opponents were stunned by the speed and force of the blow, unable to believe their eyes. It all happened in a split second, leaving them in complete shock. Effen stood in front of Liu, amazed that the first opponents were instantly defeated. He noticed Liu's incredible speed and wondered if there must be a limit to his capabilities. The bandits began shooting, using daggers, arrows, and bullets, trying to keep Liu away. They opened fire on him with a multiple launch rocket system. All the ammunition was flying straight at Liu, but he knew that such a weapon could not stop him. Liu jumped back and all the projectiles hit the ground, causing an explosion but not harming him. The enemies panicked, realizing that their weapons were powerless, and began to retreat. Liu jumped up, swinging his blade, ready to attack, and his movement was accompanied by explosions. Screams were heard all around, and the enemies tried to fight him with all available means. The bandits aimed a bazooka at Liu, but he managed to turn around and threw the dagger straight at her. The bazooka exploded in the enemy's hands. The wave threw him aside and he fell right in front of Effen. Effen was amazed by Liu's speed and strength and realized that there was only one way to deal with him. A wounded man nearby begged for help, but Effen stepped on him, showing his ruthlessness. Effen declared that he could no longer be saved. Liu stood next to them, ready for action, demonstrating his superiority over his enemies. Effen recognized Liu's strength and appreciated his fighting abilities, amazed by his might. He considered making Liu his deputy and gaining control over him. Then he would get everything he wanted. He felt the seeds hidden in the repaired one. Liu refused, resolutely rejecting any conditions, showing independence and strength of character. Effen became enraged and released his magic, filling the entire space around him. If that happened, Liu would die. Vines covered in sharp thorns burst from the ground, moving menacingly. The vines reached out toward Liu, encircling him and tightening the ring around him. Liu was surprised to notice the hidden seeds, which increased the danger. Effen laughed, revealing the secret of his power. The bodies of the dead were transformed into soil for the growth of seeds. Among all these branches, Liu's speed was nothing. The thorny vines formed a tight circle, threatening to rob Liu of his speed. Liu leaped forward, charging forward, and sliced through several branches with his blade. A stream of energy gushed from the severed parts. The vines twisted and grew again. Effen activated his power. New tendrils rose from the ground, and the takeover began. The vines rushed towards Liu, trying to entangle his body and prevent him from moving. The vines rushed toward Liu with redoubled speed, the ground shaking from their onslaught. Liu reacted instantly and unleashed a hail of lightning-fast blade strikes. But Effen's attacks continued. The vines continued to grow, closing in on all sides. Effen's laughter echoed across the battlefield. For him, this was only the beginning. One of the vines, breaking through the whirlwind of blows, wrapped itself around Liu's leg. At that very moment, he felt a force begin to pull him down. The thought flashed through his head. Things are bad. Vines entwined themselves with terrifying speed, turning the battlefield into a green cage. Effen roared, demanding that Liu die right here and now. It seemed that there really was no way out. But Liu was sure that only Effen would die. But at that moment, Liu, gritting his teeth, raised his hand, and a blue flash cut through the darkness. Light spread across the ground, the air trembled, and the vines, as if they had hit an invisible wall, were thrown back. A transparent protective field appeared around him. Effen was stunned by what he saw. His voice rose to a scream. "What the hell was this?" he asked. Liu responded with a cold laugh. His wall of air, shining and dense, did more than just deflect blows. She became a cage, an impenetrable barrier, isolating him from all plants. Now Effen's control was useless. There was nowhere to run, Liu said with icy calm, taking a step forward. Effen, twisted with anger and despair, screamed furiously, unable to believe what was happening. His suffocation vine, always obedient and deadly, now refused to obey. Not a single shoot could break through Liu's air cage. Orders escaped his lips, but the plants remained useless, as if dead. And at that moment, Liu took advantage of the confusion. He quickly disappeared from view, and a moment later his silhouette appeared right in front of Effen. The blade sliced through the air and sank into the enemy's chest. Blood spurted, hot and scarlet, covering Effen's clothes. Liu stood over him, clutching a bloody blade. His voice was cold and inexorable. In this territory, all enemy efforts were doomed to failure. Effen coughed, clutching his wound, and fell to his knees. His gaze was filled with bewilderment and rage, but his strength was draining from his body. Effen, gasping in pain, raised his head and croaked that Liu had no right to kill him. He declared that if Liu decided to strike the fatal blow, all the girls would be dead. Liu knew that Su and the others had not been captured. It was impossible. Effen grinned through the blood, muttering that he'd sent men after them, but he was only delaying Liu. His voice was confident. He believed the chase would be successful, but Liu only smiled coldly. His eyes flashed with determination. He had no doubt of their abilities. Any attempt to catch up with them and capture them was doomed to failure. Ethan had underestimated them. Just a few dozen warriors turned out to be too few. Their firepower was no match for the onslaught, and fallen bodies lay around the truck. Sue laughed, holding the bazooka on her shoulder, enjoying her own cruelty and defying fate, as if waiting for an opponent capable of stopping her. Wu looked out of the car, cut off her boasting, and pointed to two enemies hiding behind a huge rock. Sue had to deal with them, after which they were going to go to Xiaomu. One of the guys panicked and said that all their men were dead and demanded to call the boss quickly. The second, holding the radio, tried to calm him down. A signal appeared and they called for help by radio. Sue, hearing their voices, smiled and said that she had found them. She stood on a huge rock and looked down on them. The boys realized their mistake, and a cry was heard in the desert. They called for help and admitted their mistake. Ethan was amazed as he looked at the radio. He expected to hear the usual reports and the shouts of Liu's protege, but instead, piercing screams came through the headphones. His subordinates were begging for help, reporting the death of all their people and, in panic, asking for what was happening to stop. Among them, the words, "No, sister, we made a mistake. No," were heard, which indicated their complete despair and fear of the impending danger. The chaos and desperate cries were unexpected and shocking to Ethan. Liu laughed, enjoying the cries of his men. Ethan was stunned and tried to understand how this was possible, looking at the radio and demanding an explanation. Liu knocked the radio out of his hands, preventing him from communicating with his subordinates, and he put Ethan's throat under the blade, forcing him to capitulate. Ethan, in fear, admitted that he would tell everything he knew about the Blood Legion. The main forces had conspired with the city of Fallen Leaf, and we are planning to block the bridge. Liu sternly warned Ethan that lying would have serious consequences. Ethan assured him he was telling the truth, and he said that before coming here he saw a man in black entering their leader's office, and that it was the chief of the city of Fallen Leaf. He also mentioned the conversation about the pigs, which had already been fattened and were ready for slaughter, and the price of salt. Ethan decided to wait until his strength returned. Liu became intrigued by the mention of pigs and salt, trying to understand what it referred to and why the price of salt in Fallen Leaf City might fluctuate. Suddenly, screams were heard in the distance, and the girls were approaching Liu in a car. Wang Ting looked out the window and asked how he was. Liu replied that he was fine and had already dealt with the enemy boss. At this moment, Ethan took advantage of the opportunity and grabbed his sword, swinging it at Liu, preparing to attack. Wang Ting warned Xiaomo to be careful. Liu grabbed the sword with his hand, stopping the blow. He laughed, surprised that everyone in the Blood Legion used such base methods. Ethan was amazed. Lao struck his opponent's neck with his other hand, and Ethan, with a cut throat, fell face down in the sand, unable to accept it and not believing that he could die. Wang Ting approached Xiaomo, inquiring about his condition. Liu noted that everything went well, although it took a lot of effort. Su approached the dead Feng and warned that despite his death, the rest of the squad were still nearby, and crossing the bridge can be a trap. Liu smiled, noting that he was not one to give up halfway, and he's already dealt with the subgroup bosses, so he can handle the rest as well. Wang Ting asked Xiaomo what action she was going to take. Leo announced his intention to infiltrate the Legion and inquired about the others' plans. Afterward, they began discussing their next steps and future. Night had fallen at the Legion of Extermination's main camp. Cars were parked near the tents, and bound girls were in the truck. The men discussed the number of captives, one of them wondering where Ergo got so many girls from. The driver who stumbled upon them while searching for supplies laughed. He noted that many members of their unit had died during the capture. The man laughed, assessing the girls. He tried to reach out to take advantage of the situation, but the driver was indignant, reminding them that Mr. Newfang had not yet arrived, and forbade them to do anything until the leader appeared. The guy, waiting for the boss, internally felt sorry for himself from the impatience that was tearing him apart. Liu watched the nearby camp and thought about a way to infiltrate. He used the tied-up zombie guy to open his mouth, causing him to scream loudly. The guards at the entrance heard the screams and were surprised, discussing that there were infected nearby who had not yet been exterminated. They noted that the cry belonged to one person and assumed that it came from the other direction. The commander ordered Mengzi and Shitu to deal with him, and the warriors quickly rushed to the attack as the camp was closing. The guys were surprised why the zombie was tied up. There was clearly something wrong here. One of them suggested going back. Suddenly, Liu appeared from behind, holding his blades to their necks. Liu apologized, but they could no longer return. Liu struck, blood spurted out, and the warriors fell to the ground. One of the guards became wary and asked what Mengzi and Shitu were doing there. Screams were heard from behind the rock. The voice noted that it was very dark there. Mengzi was bitten. The guy asked for help. Blood splashed on him. The commander noted that this boy could no longer be saved and ordered that this madman and Mengzi be dealt with quickly. The commander considered it a disgrace that the guy was bitten by a madman. Liu thought it was time to pacify these guys from their extermination legion. They had been acting out for too long and had lost all vigilance, but it was for the best. Liu pulled on his bloody cloak and emerged from behind the rock, noting that everything was ready. Only something bad happened to Mengzi. The commander called them idiots, wondering how anyone could die while killing a madman. He noted that the soldier was covered in blood. The commander ordered him to get out of here and go wash up. Liu smiled. He didn't expect that he could fool someone by dressing up in Shitu's clothes. The gates were closed. The commander gathered everyone and announced that their guys had recently been killed by that female killer, and if anything went wrong tonight, their superiors would cut off their heads. The soldiers reassured him, telling him not to worry, she wouldn't dare visit them. And if he does come, he will fall into a trap. According to the survivors, that girl has a magnificent figure. If they catch her, they will get their revenge in full. Liu thought about it after hearing this. The female killer was somewhere around here. He wondered if anyone else had their eye on the Legion of Extermination. A woman named Hedgehog was hiding in the bushes. The girl noted that everyone had been kidnapped by the Legion of Extermination and suggested that they might have suffered at their hands. The girls supporting her were ready and waiting for instructions. Standing on the top and watching the camp, the girl with long white hair decided that, despite the guards, she would be able to attack. And she was determined to jump from a height, determined to destroy everyone in the Legion of Extermination. 2 cars were parked on the street. Wu was busy fixing the engine under the hood, while Su sat near a rock, bored and waiting for Xiaomo to take action. Wu reassured her, explaining that they would only be able to act once the camp caught fire, so they needed to wait for news. Wang noted that Xiaomo was already taking risks and offered to help her prepare the explosives she was carrying. Su stood up, ready to help, anticipating the start of the action and the salute. At this time, the guys in the camp were standing near the tents, and Liu, in a bloody cloak, was watching them. He thought that guarded tents were just what he needed. He took into account that security becomes more active in the second half of the night, and he focused on getting everything done before he was noticed. Suddenly, he noticed the female voices around him. The girl in the tent tried to cut the ropes on her hands with a piece of shrapnel. She almost made it, and the others encouraged her, noting that their salvation depended on her. Finally, the rope was cut, and the girl began to untie the others. Everyone acted carefully so as not to be noticed. Suddenly, Liu looked into the tent and the girls realized that they were caught. The girls screamed, reporting that the Legion of Extermination had discovered them and urged Xiwan to flee alone, leaving the others behind. Liu noted that he thought they had misunderstood him. Xiwan, holding the shard in her hand, realized that it would now be more difficult to escape and prepared to fight. Liu tried to stop her, grabbing her hand and warning her that he was not from the Legion of Extermination. Shi Yuan was furious, considering him an enemy, and not believing Liu's words, she screamed and swung her leg, continuing to threaten. Liu jumped back from Zhuan's blow, exclaiming, "Damn!" Zhuan stood in front, ready to attack. Liu jumped from his spot and approached her, intending to prove his position with physical force. A scuffle ensued, during which the girls watched what was happening. Liu stated that he was not from the Legion of Extermination and wanted to destroy the enemies. He tied Zhuan with a rope, hit her on the butt, calling her stupid. If he was from the Legion, he would have killed her long ago. Xuan was shocked, screaming, protesting, and trying to break free, demanding to be let go, calling him a scoundrel. Liu spanked Xuan, causing the other girls to scream. They noted that he didn't look like someone from the Legion of Extermination and suggested that perhaps Sister Rui had sent him. Liu stood in front of the tied-up Xuan, asking if she believed now. Xuan, lying on the floor, admitted this, and at the same time considered him a scumbag, assuring herself that she would never forgive him. Liu began to untie the rope, explaining that she had to listen to him if she wanted to get out. At that moment, a noise was heard outside, and a man appeared at the entrance, asking what was happening to the girls. The girls were surprised and realized that the situation was getting worse. Liu pulled his hood tighter, warning against rash actions, and turned wearily to the man in the passage. The man was surprised by his appearance, asking questions about why he was there, why he wasn't sleeping and hadn't washed. Liu explained that he heard sounds while walking in the rain and decided to check. It turned out that one of the girls was trying to free herself, even cutting the ropes. So Liu decided to tie her up again. The man praised him for this. Liu considered how to deceive him and escape unnoticed. The leader looked at the girl, asking if she wanted to run away. He said that when Ethan returned, he would take care of her first. Liu noted that it was unknown when the leader would return and suggested that they somehow deal with the girl before he arrived. He noted that, in any case, it was her own fault. And what can we say? That she tried to escape, and while trying to catch her, she was accidentally killed. The girl was surprised, wondering if she had been deceived. The commander, smiling, agreed that his words made sense. The commander smiled and headed deeper into the tent, approaching the girl. Liu felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing that everything had worked out. The commander was ready to demonstrate his skills. The commander and Zhuan laughed as they watched the tense situation. Liu placed his blade against the commander's neck, testing his reaction and challenging him to a collision. The commander was surprised and stunned when Liu swung the dagger at his throat. The commander's body collapsed onto Zhuan's feet. Liu untied her hands and warned her to hide, instructing her to run for the exit immediately if she heard an explosion. He noted that he had a task to complete. What made Zhuan realize was that his goal went beyond saving them, and he came with other motives. Liu tossed her the gun, explaining that the Legion of Extermination had dared to confront him, and he had to stop them. He instructed Zhuan to be careful and not to act rashly, emphasizing that if she was caught again, he would not save her, and then left. The girl screamed, wondering who else should be more careful. The other girls were shocked by the cold-blooded murder and discussed how handsome and cool Liu was. They were amazed that one man could stand up to an entire legion and admitted that they had fallen in love. They imagined what it would be like to be in Xuan's place if Liu had hit them, and they laughed. Xuan, untying the others, asked whose side they were on. The girls declared that, naturally, they were on the side of their savior. They emphasized that Xuan, although she hadn't said it, should be grateful to Liu. Xuan thought to herself that enough was enough, since the Legion of Extermination had over 1,000 people, and she doubted whether he would be able to cope. It seemed reckless to her. Outside the camp, two men stood near a backpack by a truck, tired and irritated. They argued about who would watch and who would get to take a nap. Hearing footsteps, they called out, and Liu appeared in front of them, holding a cigarette in a box in his hands. The men tried to joke and offered Liu a lighter when he wanted to light his cigarette. They were surprised by his face in the light of the flames, not having time to realize that it was not Shido in front of them. Suddenly, Liu struck with a dagger, and the men fell to the ground. Liu exhaled, realizing he was almost done. He looked at the men lying on the ground and realized that all that remained was to get rid of the guard at the gate so that Fei Fei and the others could enter. He approached the remaining two, trying to talk to them, but the men did not respond. They were dead and fell all covered in blood. Liu was surprised that he was not the only one who had snuck into the camp. At that moment, a girl appeared from behind, grabbed him by the shoulder, and put a blade to his throat. She ordered to be silent, raise your hands, and turn around slowly. Liu was surprised by her speed, not having time to notice her movement. The girl demanded that Liu first state his name. He asked why this was necessary. She explained that his life was now in her hands and instantly approached him from behind with a blade. Liu activated a protective shield that prevented the blade from penetrating the defense and smiled. Liu activated his power and the girl jumped back. She was surprised how his awakened ability could block her knife. Liu said she didn't need to know that and went on the attack, trying to land a blow. The girl jumped and dodged, expressing anger, and disappeared right in front of him. Liu noted her speed and decided to focus on destroying the extermination camp without pursuing her. Even though she had killed people here, he still wasn't sure whether she was friend or foe. Suddenly, there was an explosion, and the girl found herself behind Liu. He was surprised and realized that it was a specially prepared parting gift. Screams were heard in the camp. People were shouting about an attack and panicking. Liu realized he had been exposed and gave the command over the radio to lure the enemy into a pre-arranged ambush. Wu confirmed that the enemies had found Xiaomo, and high-level enemies could not be destroyed directly. Now Liu intended to lure everyone into a trap, acting according to Plan B, which Wu had agreed upon. Su was delighted and laughed, anticipating using her dragon and rocket launcher. She urged the others on, not wanting to waste time. Liu ran forward at full speed, and the cries of his pursuers could be heard. The enemies demanded that he be caught for the murder of their comrades. Liu checked the readiness on the radio. Wu confirmed that everything was ready. Su with the bazooka was full of determination. Vanti urged caution. Liu gave the command over the radio, and the attack began. The enemy, surprised by the sudden resistance, found themselves under fire from above. The ambush caught them by surprise. Snipers from the cliff began shooting, causing panic. Su laughed as she intensified her attack by firing her bazooka, causing a powerful explosion. Liu watched the proceedings, pondering order and morality. If there is no law in the world, he himself will become the law and decide what is right and what is wrong. Liu stood among the fallen enemies, observing the outcome of the battle. Suddenly, he spotted Su and Wu with weapons. Su praised him for helping with the bazooka. Wang Ting asked about his condition, to which Liu replied that he was fine. Wu noticed that 2 of the opponents had escaped, but Liu said that someone else would deal with them. An explosion was heard in the distance, but Liu reassured the girls that they were not enemies. Later, the girls appeared in front along with Zhuan, who introduced herself and thanked them for their help. Liu asked her to wait and introduced himself as Liu. He suggested they step away, and Wu agreed. Xuan, standing behind, asked to wait. She explained that they had just been through a terrible experience, and the noise could attract nearby lunatics and zombies that would soon appear. She added that since they were women, they wanted to stay with Liu today and asked if he would protect them. Liu was against it. The girl was surprised. "Hey, you brat, Xuan, you've never begged anyone before." The girls yelled at him. He turned her down right away and shamed her in front of everyone, the other girls yelled. The girls said Xuan was simply taking advantage of the situation, since they were all beautiful. Liu laughed and noted that at least he wasn't a brainless idiot. Liu asked if they wanted him to be their bodyguard for free. He added that they should give him something in return. Xuan immediately considered his desire. She asked him what he wanted and assumed he wanted her to spend the night with him. Liu explained that there were 2 options, to split up and fend for themselves. The second option was to join his team, and he would be their boss. Xuan was surprised. It turned out he didn't want her to sleep with him. The girl said he only had 4 people with him now, and the team looked pathetic. She asked if he could handle it if they joined him. The girls clarified that this wasn't a definitive answer. They just wanted to make sure. Liu said he and his team had just destroyed the camp. He reminded them that the girls were prisoners. Wasn't that enough? The girls had doubts, but admitted that Liu was right. Rui told Liu that intelligence and strength were important, but material resources were more important, and asked if he could feed everyone. Ye Rui, skill, tough skin. Rui asked if he could. The girls exclaimed joyfully, knowing Rui wouldn't leave them alone. They said this guy really had destroyed the entire camp. Rui noted that she was going to save the girls, but he got ahead of her. Liu asked who she was, and Rui introduced herself as their older sister. The girls said that they always followed Rui. Liu said, "I see," appreciating the strength of their team. He figured if he could get them to work for him, things would be easier. Rui asked why Liu wasn't answering her question about how he planned to feed them. She acknowledged his abilities, but asked how he planned to feed everyone. Luke snapped his fingers and activated his scanner, easily displaying his capabilities. The girls were amazed. There was so much salt in his food supplies. They were shocked. Sausage, which they hadn't eaten for several months. There was also chocolate, which they had not seen since the beginning of the post-apocalyptic world. Liu said that now they had seen everything and could decide whether to leave or stay. He handed them a candy bar, and Rui was surprised. The girls invited Rui to join his team, as they hadn't eaten normal food for a long time. They convinced Rui they'd work for food, not for whoever hired them. The girls said he'd saved Xuan's sister, so he must be a good guy. They noted that there was no need to worry about possible betrayal on his part. Rui, surrounded by girls, shouted, "Enough!" attracting Liu's attention. Liu watched from the sidelines, assessing the situation. Rui said that in addition to the supplies, each of them would receive 1,000 rounds of ammunition daily. Liu declared that he was willing to pay 2,000, but the girls had to obey him unquestioningly. He added that otherwise he would kick them out. Lao said he could guarantee salt at every meal. As for the rest, he added, he'd have to work hard for it. Rui agreed. "Good deal," she said. Being able to eat salt every time was better than other mercenary groups, she thought. It was a good deal, Rui thought to herself. Liu said he hoped for a good cooperation as he shook her hand. The girls were overjoyed. They now had salt. They were happy that they no longer had to worry about Salt. For Salt, they'd kill any second-level psycho with one blow, the girls said. Rui told Liu Xiaomu that this was an employer-employee relationship, and he was their boss in battle. She added that he shouldn't think about using them. Rui warned that she wouldn't forgive him if he forced anyone on her team to do anything. Liu established rule number 1, never speak to him in that tone. He grabbed Rui by the throat, emphasizing the seriousness of his words. Liu told her to think not about his possible actions, but about the team's behavior. He added that they shouldn't be allowed to sneak into his tent at night. Rui said that no one on her team would ever do or behave like that. The girls were amazed as they watched Liu. They called him Master and admired him. They surrounded him, asking if he was free. They admired his beauty, struck by his appearance and authority. The girl said it didn't matter and asked if he wouldn't mind having a couple more girlfriends. She asked him what type of girl he liked best, asking about her age. Rui was shocked by such questions. She screamed that they'd never seen the guy before and wondered why the girls were staring at Liu like that. Xuan told Rui to do whatever they wanted. She added that who knows how long they can survive in this world. She suggested they just have fun, accepting the situation as it was. Rui hoped she'd made the right decision and silently addressed Liu. Don't let me down. The next day, the tents were pitched and the girls were walking nearby. Liu chatted with Wang Ting, discussing supplies. Wang reported that all supplies had been counted, except for noodles, cigarettes, sausages, and the like. She showed him the multicolored crystals on her hand. Liu examined them and said they were Berg crystals and energy crystals from a meteorite. He noted that this type of crystal contains extremely rich energy. Some crystals can even be directly converted into water. Liu admitted he hadn't expected to find such good things in the small camp. Wang was surprised and said they said an ordinary person could become awakened by absorbing some of their energy. She asked Xiao Mo if she could become awakened using these crystals. The girl thought that once she became awakened, she would be able to help more. He noted that the crystals could damage her body. Liu said their energy was impure and they should wait. Wang agreed, a little upset. Liu told Wang Ting not to be upset and patted her on the head. He promised to help her become awakened as soon as they found a suitable crystal. He thought he'd need to find her a suitable crystal. Wang Ting said she trusted Xiaomo. Rui announced from behind that everyone was already gathered and asked for orders. The girls behind her supported her. Liu stood in front of the crowd of girls and said that the first order was to eat well. The girls were surprised and joyfully exclaimed, "Hooray, thank you, Master." They screamed with joy and said they loved him. The girls laughed and rejoiced that they could finally eat. A pot of food was boiling on the stove. The girls came up and said that it smelled too good. They noticed that it smelled like rice, which they had long dreamed of. One of the girls was surprised. What rice? Stop dreaming. The girls assumed the owner was preparing porridge for them. From the smell, they could tell there was definitely some rice in the pot. Wang Ting said she thought the food was ready. She invited everyone to begin eating. The girls approached the pot with spoons. It was amazing. They were finally getting to eat, and they were in anticipation. They opened the lid and looked inside, wondering what awaited them inside. The girls found out that it was actually rice, not porridge, but real steamed rice. They noted that the owner prepares rice in the same way as the mayor of Luoyi City. They haven't tasted rice since the beginning of the post-apocalyptic world, and it smells damn good. The girls couldn't stand it any longer and wanted to fill their bowls first. They pounced on the pot of food, each wanting 10 bowls of rice. They weren't even afraid to die from overeating for the sake of rice. Vantin reassured them, saying more dishes would be brought soon. The girl asked about other dishes, thinking they were cucumbers. Vantine clarified, better. The girls were surprised and asked what could be better than cucumbers. Su and Wu carried a huge pot and placed it on the floor. They reported that today it was boiled cabbage, lightly peppered. The girls were surprised that the owner actually peppered the dish. They noted that 50 grams of pepper cost the same as 500 grams of salt, counting the difference. The girls approached the pot, and Vantine asked what they were waiting for and suggested that they pounce. Otherwise, it would be cold and tasteless. She poured food into a bowl for everyone. One of the girls, crying, said it reminded her of her mother. She remembered how her mother often made spicy cabbage rolls. The girl remembered the day her mother locked a madman at the door to protect her. Normally, her mother couldn't even lift a bucket of water, but that day she did. The girl couldn't contain her emotions and burst into tears. She said her parents were killed while trying to save her. All of her family and friends had perished since the beginning of the post-apocalyptic world. Vantine was shocked by what she heard. The girl added that only today did she feel like she was living like a human being. Vantine hugged her and said everything was fine. Vantine assured that from now on they would become her family. Liu sat off to the side near a rock, looking out over the camp. He ate, thinking about this fucking post-apocalyptic world. He wondered when all this would end. There were cars parked on the road, and a crowd of zombies was everywhere. Liu watched from afar through a telescope and said that this was their first target. He explained that they needed to destroy the zombies on the bridge and fight their way across. The girls noted that there were about 1,000 zombies on the bridge, and the terrain was unfavorable. They added that fighting there wouldn't be easy. The girls asked their master where he intended to go across the bridge and remarked that they would fight if he ordered them to. Zhuan added that they would all carry out his orders. She reflected that Liu Xiaomo had dealt with the assassination squad almost single-handedly. She thought he was very strong and that it wouldn't be difficult to deal with the zombies. Liu told Fei Fei that the others would not participate in the battle this time. He added that the girls would fight all the zombies themselves. Xuan was surprised and asked why if he wouldn't be there. Lao replied that he wanted to see how strong they were without him. He said he'd fulfilled his promise, and now it was time to prove his worth. He reminded them that they had to fight for everything themselves in a post-apocalyptic world. Liu added that if they couldn't handle the zombies, he shouldn't keep so much trash around. Xuan was surprised and asked how Liu Xiaomo could say such a thing. Rui told Xuan to stop and pointed out that Liu Xiaomo was right. She added that there is no such thing as a free lunch and that something equivalent must be done. Xuan admitted that he was rude, but she understood the rules. Rui explained that he's the boss, he pays her, and in exchange, she does the work. She emphasized that the most important thing is the work and the pay, not his attitude. Rui said that they were just a bunch of mindless zombies and they needed to be destroyed. The girls shouted that they would of course fight her. They decided that now that they were full, it was time to train and digest their food. The girls said they could easily handle a bunch of zombies if they worked together. Rui shouted, "Everything's fine. Everyone follow me. Squad C, attack." Wang Ting asked if Qing Zhuan and the others would be okay. Wu replied that Rui and the others didn't have much firepower. She added that they could get injured or even die fighting like this. At that moment, Liu smoked a cigarette, observing the situation. Liu noted that in this world, it's impossible not to suffer or die. He added that it's better to suffer now than to suffer later when the squad is destroyed. Su agreed that Xiaomo was right. Su marveled at the cursed post-apocalyptic world where people died every day. Liu was shocked by Su. He reminded her that children shouldn't swear or smoke. Liu warned her not to repeat his actions next time. Su thought to himself that she was damn big. At that moment, explosions were heard and the group went on the attack against the zombies. Xuan fired the gun. The girls attacked while hiding behind abandoned cars. Rui gave the order to prepare grenades and throw them at the zombies on the front lines to prevent them from gathering together. Wang Ting observed the battle and noted that Xuan and the others were fine. Wu added that no one was injured or died. Liu noted that they were doing well. Suddenly, a huge mutated zombie appeared. Xuan was surprised when the zombie attacked straight at the girls. His eyes glowed red as he approached, swinging his huge hand. All the cars flew apart from his blows. The girls were terrified and shot at the zombie, trying to kill him. The monster covered himself with his hands from the girls' shots. They fired simultaneously. The monster froze in place as Liu watched from the side. Van noticed that a mutant zombie had appeared, and it seemed like the girls wouldn't be able to contain it. Su thought she could take him down with just a few shots. Liu noted that explosions from the Dragon rocket launcher could cause the bridge to collapse. Wu asked if he would help, but Liu decided to watch the events unfold for now. Liu reminded her that Rui was also an awakened being. He thought about seeing what she was capable of. Xuan was frustrated because the zombie mutants' defenses were too strong. They knew they couldn't stop it without heavy fire support. The girls wanted to ask Xiaomo and the others for help. Rui decided they didn't need it and would stop the mutant herself. The power of thick skin has been activated. Rui went on the attack against the monster. She focused on the mutant zombie, leaving the rest to the girls. The mutant swung to strike, and the mutant and Rui's fists clashed in the struggle. There was a pop, and they were thrown back a little, finding themselves some distance from each other. Rui cleared her throat, realizing that the mutant was quite strong. The mutant swung again to strike, and Rui responded with a counterattack. There was an explosion, and the battle continued. The mutant swung his arm to strike, and a scream was heard. The mutant flew far away, rolling along the ground. His red eyes glowed in the distance. He suffered minor injuries, and Rui was kneeling nearby. She was amazed why he was so difficult to overcome. The mutant swung at the tired Rui, who was kneeling. The girls were horrified as they watched what was happening. Vantine watched from the cliff and knew the situation was bad. Liu jumped to attack, approaching the monster. Everything was in smoke. Visibility was practically zero. The girls thought it was all over and Rui was in danger. Xuan was in tears and fury, trying to cope with the horror of the situation. The girls tried to hold Juan back, warning her. They noted that Rui seemed to be okay. The smoke cleared, revealing a silhouette. It was Liu, holding Rui in his arms, approaching them. Rui was surprised by his appearance and the fact that he came to help. Liu explained that he feared the bridge would collapse if they continued fighting. The girls breathed a sigh of relief. Liu Xiaomu had made it in time. They were overjoyed to see Rui safe. Wang Ting watched from the cliff and noted that with Xiaomu, there shouldn't be any problems. The monster was angry and went on the attack, swinging. Liu jumped up with Rui in his arms and landed carefully. The girls ran up to him from behind. Liu focused on the mutant zombie, leaving the rest to King Xuan. Rui noted that the mutant was very strong and difficult to defeat head-on. She suggested retreating first and using weapons to destroy it. The girls noted that they should retreat first, as fighting the mutant was dangerous. They noticed that Fei Fei had a flare gun they could use. The girls suggested taking the mutant zombie away from the bridge and blowing it up to make it safe. Liu said he was not going to waste time and needed to cross the bridge today. He activated his magical power and went on the attack, swinging his blade. He was ready to destroy anyone who stood in his way. Liu swung and struck the mutant. Traces of green liquid appeared on the mutant's body. The mutant fell to the floor. Liu bounced back and landed on the ground. The girls noticed that the mutant zombie was dead. They had to deal with the rest of the zombies as quickly as possible. The girls were surprised that the mutant nearly killed Rui, but couldn't withstand one blow from Liu. They admired how strong their master was. Rui considered the comparison with Liu. She thought the only difference between them was resources. She hadn't expected such a gap in their fighting skills. Now, working with him looked like they were using him for their own ends. Liu ordered the immediate disposal of the remaining zombies. Xuan agreed and insisted on a quick move. They decided to eliminate all remaining zombies as quickly as possible. The girls went on the attack. There were destroyed zombies lying on the floor. It was already dark. The girls decided to clear the road. They threw zombie corpses at the cars to clear the way. Nothing should get in the way. Liu watched their progress. After crossing the bridge, they had hundreds of kilometers to travel to the research lab. He wondered what else might lie ahead for them. Rui apologized to Xiaomo for her poor performance in securing the bridge. She admitted that she was not opposed to terminating the contract. Liu smiled as he handed over the document. The girls thought it was a notice of termination. Rui noted that an official employment contract had not yet been signed. Lao explained that this was a 10-year employment contract. The girls were delighted with the benefits package included in the contract. They could eat meat once a month, which was no worse than what they got in Liu's 3 best military units. The girls smiled with joy. Rui asked why Liu was acting like this. He noted that they had passed his test. It was evening. The sun had almost set. Zombies roamed the streets, growling in search of food. Suddenly there was a bang and a shot followed. A truck appeared ahead and started shooting from it. All the zombies fell dead to the floor. Rui stood in the middle of the road with 2 pistols. She ordered Anya to take several men and thoroughly search the city. They were also to check the perimeter and stand guard. Shi Yuan told Sister Rui to go with her. Rui noted that they had made progress in the days since the bridge. They were now several thousand kilometers from the city of Luoye. Rui was worried about where they were headed and what if they encountered a large group of zombies. Liu looked at the map, explaining that they would only know the answer once they arrived at their destination. After dinner, Liu wanted to gather all the team members to say something. Rui was surprised and worried. Vanting noted that Liu does not put his own goals above the safety of the team. Rui sighed, remembering that before, the longest distance to the city of Luoy was only a few hundred kilometers. They were now several thousand kilometers away and continuing to move forward. The further they went, the more unknown dangers they would encounter. Liu looked at the map and thought about the route through the city to Tiger Village. He realized that after Tiger Village, they would need to find a research lab. More than 10,000 zombies and dozens of mutant zombies had gathered at the pass before Tiger Village. Liu had passed through this place in his past life and lost half his elite soldiers. Now he must find a way to get through this dangerous place again. He considered a strategy to minimize losses and overcome the threat. The road ahead was full of danger and uncertainty. Xuan ran forward, shouting about the emergency. She informed Rui that a large group of zombies was visible near the city. The total number of zombies exceeded 20,000. There were also dozens of mutant zombies. Liu Xiaomo needed to be notified as soon as possible. Rui was surprised by such a large group of zombies. She decided to immediately report it to her master. Liu remained calm and did not consider it necessary to mention the situation again. He remembered this group of zombies being far from the city in his past life. Now the zombies were much closer, and there were more of them. Rui noted that it was not safe here, and they needed to find a place to spend the night. They could attack them at midnight. Liu explained that they could leave today and return tomorrow if the zombies attacked at night. He noted that their route to their destination would pass through this group of zombies. The girls were stunned by the thought. Rui asked again, surprised at the need to go through all those zombies. She couldn't believe Liu was serious about going down this path. Rui noted that there were tens of thousands of zombies and dozens of mutants ahead. She emphasized that this group could destroy the combined defenses of Luo Yi's 3 best units. The girl expressed concern that Liu could destroy them all. Liu asked who was in charge here, him or them. Rui admitted that Liu was. She countered that they couldn't send the team to certain death. Wu asked Xiaomo to calm down. Rui lost her temper, overexcited. Wang Ting asked Rui to forgive her. Xuan added that she hadn't meant to argue, but the group of zombies was simply too large. Liu said this was the last time, warning of consequences. He threatened severe punishment for repeated disobedience. He would strip her naked, hang her, and beat her. Rui asked how they would get through the zombie horde. The girls knew they were outnumbered and their cars would be destroyed. Liu said he knew what to do. He planned to refit the machines and kept the plans to himself. The zombies wouldn't be able to stop them with this plan. He handed Rui a paper with the plans for the vehicle conversion. The girls looked at the diagram carefully and were surprised. They noted that previously the vehicles were only re-equipped with armor and spikes. With this blueprint, machines will be able to attack zombies. The girls admired the drawings and asked where Liu had found them. Liu reminded them that time was short and that they needed to gather the materials. The girls began converting the cars according to the plan. Liu thought he'd bought the plans at the store, which is why they were so cool. Rui looked closely at the map and assessed the plans. They even allowed her to convert the truck she'd found a few days earlier. The converted truck will be used as a vanguard. Rui noted that the truck driver would be in great danger. Liu agreed and explained that a fearless driver was needed to clear the way. The girls were surprised. Clearing the road meant the truck would go first. All the zombies would rush at it, easily falling into a trap. There were 20,000 zombies and a multitude of mutant zombies. Anyone trapped in the truck would be torn to pieces. The converted truck might have made it through, but no one was confident of success. Rui shouted that those who undermine morale would be expelled immediately. Liu noted that Rui can sometimes be confrontational, but she doesn't do it maliciously. She's always the first to solve problems, and that's very helpful to Liu. Rui announced she would become a truck driver. Liu noted that as a combat commander, Rui could drive a truck. Rui agreed that everything was fine. Suddenly, Xuan intervened, asking permission to drive the truck. Rui refused, reminding him that Xuan wasn't as strong in combat. She emphasized that she had stone skin and could defend herself. She explained that the truck driver bears a great deal of responsibility. If he makes a mistake, the entire team will be in danger. Rui insisted on driving the truck, while Xuan insisted on her own. Liu watched the argument and pondered. Rui emphasized that she had rock-hard skin and could defend herself. Xuan countered that her driving skills were superior. Liu put an end to the argument by deciding who would drive the truck. Xuan would drive, and Liu would help from the roof, clearing the way. Rui would be responsible for coordinating military operations. Liu's decision was final. Liu promised the truck driver 5 meteorite crystals as a reward. If the driver died, the 5 crystals would go to a chosen person. Xuan countered that there was no need for a reward, reminding her that Liu had already saved her from an assassination squad. Liu insisted that she take the crystals. The girls were surprised by Liu's generosity and the meteorite crystals as a reward. They discussed how 5 crystals could buy a lot of food. The girls regretted not agreeing right away. Liu would sit on the roof of the truck, helping clear the way. He decided that none of the team should die in vain. Liu emphasized that the team must work first before receiving a reward. Those who want something for nothing should leave the squad. Liu warned that the journey through the zombies would be extremely dangerous. He gave them one last chance to leave and terminate their contract. Those who left were allowed to take food, ammunition, and transportation. The girls were silent, frozen in front of the commander. A second later, they decided they weren't afraid and were ready to go. They believed their master would be able to destroy all the zombies. The team decided to follow Rui's sister lest they be played with. The girls shouted that nothing could stop them. Liu ordered the vehicles to be refitted immediately. He set the departure time for the following morning at 10 o'clock. Each team member was busy with their own task and helped others. Rui noticed that the car's front panel was installed incorrectly and screamed. She explained that she bet they didn't understand the drawing at all, and the edited footage is completely wrong. One of the girls said it looked like Rui had made the mistake. She was surprised by this comment. Another girl chimed in, noting that Rui was doing everything exactly as described in the drawing. The girls paused, comparing their completed work with the drawing. Rui demanded silence and threatened that those making noise would be forced to refit their vehicles themselves. The girls admitted they didn't know how to properly carry out the conversion. Rui paused, looking closely at the drawing, and noted that they didn't understand it at all. The girls suggested asking their owner for help. Rui pointed out that they were constantly asking their owner to solve their problems for them and were no good at anything themselves. Liu appeared from behind and asked them to stop blaming others. He noticed that the drawing was being held upside down. Liu took the plan, saying he would do the conversion himself. The girls laughed, but Rui sternly ordered them to stop. She emphasized that it was better to watch the master do his work and not to disturb him with trivial matters. Liu picked up the tool and began refitting the cars. The girls watched the process closely. He wiped away the sweat after a while. The conversion was complete. The girls were delighted and screamed with delight as they watched Liu. They thought the owner was great. The refurbishment was completed, and Liu suggested making a fire and cooking dinner. Wu checked the shops in the area and reported finding a lot of things. She noted the city's many buildings and suggested searching for supplies. Liu hoped they could find some food, smiling. Liu suggested splitting into several groups to search for food. The girls agreed with his plan. They happily discussed their search for food and hoped their master would caress them. The girls hoped to return with plenty of supplies. Liu suggested starting at the nearest store and walked inside. Vanting noted that the store resembled the place where she and Liu first met. Liu agreed with her observation. Wang Ting was upset and thought that she couldn't have done it without Xiaomu's help. Su intervened in the conversation and expressed dissatisfaction. She remarked that what was happening gave her goosebumps. Su suggested finding another place to talk about love. The girls decided to focus on finding food. Vantine quickly left to look for supplies. Liu reflected on the fact that she had been with Wang for so long. The thought occurred to her that perhaps it was time to marry her. Vantine screamed that she had found sausages. Su was surprised that such food could be found here. Wu remarked that these sausages were very tasty. Su suggested quickly plundering the find and laughed with joy. She found a whole box of instant noodles. The girls were delighted with the canned meat, pork, and liver. Rui showed the oil, salt, sugar, sauce, vinegar, and seasonings. The girls noted the abundance of spices here. They decided that tonight's dinner would be the perfect combination of aroma, flavor, and appearance. Su asked Xiaomu what he found. Liu smiled and said they were just a few useless things. He was going to throw them away. Su didn't believe it and ran up, hoping to see something good. Liu forbade her to approach. A fight broke out. Liu found himself thrown to the ground with Su sitting on him. The box fell forward and things fell out. The girls were surprised by what was happening. Su screamed in surprise when she saw the things. Liu said they were useless. Su proved them wrong, and Liu lay on the floor explaining it. The girls screamed, amazed at how Xiaomu managed to find such things. They remarked on his good taste. Su suggested several girls who could wear these items. Liu was called a pervert and dishonest towards Su. Liu suddenly hit Su on the head. He said that Su was just a child to him and had no intentions against her. Su was indignant and patted her head, calling him an idiot. Wang Ting said they needed to look for more stores. She noticed that the small grocery store had a lot of food and that there was more to be found. The girls decided not to waste any time and started leaving the store. They hoped they'd be able to eat anything they wanted today. Wang Ting looked back at the box of things and thought that everyone had left. Xiaomu was interested in the underwear she found, and Wang Ting decided to take a couple of items to surprise him someday. Suddenly, she noticed Juan appearing from behind. Xiwan sat down next to the box and began to look at the underwear. The girls decided that Xiwan would choose first. They agreed to keep it a secret between themselves. Night fell and there were people in the town square. The girls were delighted that there was so much food in this city and that they could eat well today. The city was far from Loya, so it hadn't been plundered yet. They were lucky. The girls discussed how unusual and sexy the lingerie in the box was. They were a little uneasy about the discovery. Suddenly, a voice was heard nearby. Wan Ting opened the pot and announced that dinner was ready. The girls wondered what they would eat today, hoping for meat. Today's dinner was noodles with ham. The girls were delighted, realizing they were eating meat. They thanked the host for the food. Suddenly, Liu appeared, holding a box. He brought the girls something good he'd found in one of the basements. The girls were surprised, thinking that it could be underwear. Liu explained that it was wine they could use to warm themselves. The girls were delighted with the find and rejoiced. Rui reminded them that they still had to fight the zombies, and that drinking now could be dangerous. Liu said it wasn't a problem, as the wine was being handed out to each person, little by little. He added that everyone would be sober by the next morning and able to continue on their way. Rui warned the girls not to get drunk. The girls nodded. Their spirits were lifted by the discovery of wine. Everyone was getting ready for an evening of rest before the zombie fight the next day. Zhuan approached with a glass, and Liu poured wine. The wine was strong, but she felt its effect. Liu thought that many people might not survive tomorrow, so he decided to give them the opportunity to enjoy the evening. Xuan clung to him, expressing gratitude for saving her. She offered to devote herself to him, expressing her devotion. Liu asked if she was sober to check her condition. Xuan insisted she was sober, but expressed a desire to have sex with him. Liu stopped her, reminding her that others were watching them. Rui suddenly appeared and asked Qin Xuan what she was doing. Xuan, overjoyed to see Rui, replied that she and the master were simply talking. Liu thought Rui was his savior. Rui noted that Xuan couldn't have sex with him alone. Clutching Liu's neck, she suggested they do it together. Liu asked what was going on. Shui, standing nearby, noted that Sister Rui got drunk easily and passed out after just one sip of wine. Liu was surprised by what was happening. Rui, hugging Liu, said that she wanted to be with him. The next day, there were cars parked in the square, surrounded by a crowd of girls. Liu gave instructions. Qin Xuan would drive the large jeep. The others would follow her, moving forward only. No one was to stop without his order. Rui leads the others, while Liu sits on the roof of her truck and helps. He emphasizes that there should be no panic. Those who stop or get scared will get a direct shot to the head. Rui confirmed that she understood. Liu stated that it was a battle for survival, and that they had to do everything they could. Everyone understood Liu. The girls unanimously answered that they were ready. Liu confirmed and announced the target, Tiger Village. In the distance, the roar, screams, and hum of zombies could be heard, including enraged mutant zombies. The cars started moving straight towards them. Liu stood on the hood of the first truck. He gave the order to move forward, ready to deal with the zombies. Liu sat on the hood of the truck, almost at his destination. He commanded Qingquan to act, and the girl pressed the lever. The weapon was ready. Liu smiled and encouraged. Let's see what is stronger, their bodies or his knife. The zombies growled and approached. Suddenly there were flashes. An explosion thundered right in the crowd of zombies. Bodies fell to the ground. Blood was everywhere, flying in all directions. The gun fired bullets continuously, tearing apart the ranks of zombies, which flew in all directions. The cars did not stop. They moved forward. Xuan, behind the wheel, shouted, "Get lost, you damn creatures!" Wu watched the other cars and thought everything was fine. The girls, who were in other cars, enthusiastically supported them. Rui peered out of the car and gave the command, "Don't wait. Everyone except the driver, start killing all the zombies." The girls' voices responded in unison. They screamed and fired, "Die, you freaks!" Rui added encouragingly that with so many zombies here, there was no need to even aim, just shoot. The zombies went berserk, and mutant zombies appeared nearby. Liu was ready for their attack. Xuan warned Xiaomo about the approaching mutant zombies. Liu gave the order to continue moving forward and jumped off the car himself, holding the blade in his hands. He began to attack the zombies in his path, each blow knocking them off their feet. The mutant zombies were approaching, their eyes glowing with a bright red light, posing a dangerous threat to everyone. Rui was shocked by Liu's actions. He charged at the 3 mutant zombies using his abilities. It was like committing suicide. Channeling air abilities and activating the air blade allowed him to inflict wounds on his opponents, causing green liquid to flow out. The mutant zombies continued to attack, but soon felt a surge of magic and froze in place, then collapsed to the ground. The girls were shocked by the power of his awakened ability and were finally convinced that following Liu was the right decision. The zombies were closing in on Liu, but he struck with lightning speed, clearing the way. The girls sped up their cars, following him. Xuan rode the truck, screaming as she destroyed zombies along the way, knowing that thanks to Liu, they were getting through safely. Having covered most of the way, Liu suddenly noticed another mutant zombie ahead. He jumped on the truck, struck it, and the car was thrown to the side, creating a huge depression in the road in which the mutant stood. Liu was shocked to see Xuan driving a truck and saying his name. The girls sped up, following Liu's orders. Ria shouted, urging the others to move faster. Liu gave orders, demanding them not to stop and to reform their formation, while simultaneously directing Fei Fei to clear a path with the dragon rocket launcher to save Qin Xuan. The girls strictly followed all commands, understanding that violating an order could cost them their lives. They trusted Liu and knew that he would definitely save Qin Xuan. Su charged into the fight with a bazooka on her shoulder, kicking down the car door and smiling. She fired, causing a powerful explosion that sent the zombies flying in all directions as the car continued moving forward. Su regretted that she didn't have enough strength to constantly use weapons, otherwise everything would be easier. Wu commanded them to move forward and warned Xiaomu to take care of himself. Liu rushed at the huge mutant zombie that stood in front of him, ready to attack. He struck furiously, screaming in anger. Xuan, wounded and bleeding, tried to push him away and asked him to run away and leave her, but Liu refused to leave her. She was barely holding on, her hands were shaking, blood was flowing from her mouth, and she extended her bloody hand to Liu, hoping that he could save her. At some point, she collapsed to the floor and Liu was overcome with despair. He couldn't believe that she could die and he screamed, refusing to accept the thought. Liu, holding Qing Quan in his arms, carried her through the crowd of zombies trying to dodge their attacks. The zombies were approaching, and in the distance several more mutant zombies could be seen, menacingly stepping to the side. Wang Ting got out of the car, looking around. The sign read, "Tiger Village, welcome." The girls anxiously searched for Liu and Xuan, but could not see them. Hearts sank with fear. Had they already died? Wu grabbed Wang Ting's hand, warning her of the risk and that she could die if she ran after them alone. But Wang Ting was adamant. She had to find Liu. She couldn't live if something bad happened to him. Her determination shocked Wu and the others, causing them to freeze as they watched her actions. The girls froze when they heard a voice calling them to join. They realized that together they could bring back their master and Xuan. Despite their fear of Liu's strength, they decided to take action to ensure that he and Qing Quan were still alive. Rui ordered everyone to get into the cars and follow them. Su stood on the truck and noticed an approaching figure. Liu appeared in the distance holding Xuan in his arms. The girls were amazed and joyfully realized that the master had returned and saved Sister Xuan. The girls were shocked to see Liu single-handedly fend off a 20,000-strong zombie army. They couldn't believe one man was capable of such a feat. Vantine rushed to him and hugged him, crying with relief and joy. Liu reassured everyone that he was fine and immediately turned his attention to caring for Xuan. Rui and the other girls were alarmed. Xuan had been injured when she was attacked by a mutant zombie, got stuck under a car, and received serious injuries from shards of glass. Liu realized she needed immediate help. The girls came closer, offering their assistance. And Qing explained that before the post-apocalyptic world, she studied at a medical college and had the necessary skills to provide first aid. Rui begged An to save Qing Quan, and she promised to do everything possible to save the girl. And Qing examined Xuan and concluded that her condition was critical. Glass fragments had damaged her internal organs, and internal bleeding had likely begun. She warned that without professional surgical equipment, the chances of survival were almost zero. However, given the girl's youth, the chances remained minimal. Liu asked if there was a chance, and Anne explained that under normal conditions, with the equipment, it might be possible to save Xuan. The girls realized with horror that it was Xuan who had suffered, and that they themselves could have died in her place. Rui was tormented by guilt. She blamed herself for not having stood her ground, and she thought she could have prevented the injury. The entire squad remained tense, realizing how cruel this post-apocalyptic world is, and how easily the best is lost. Liu explained that internal bleeding is critical. If damaged organs do not stop the bleeding, the chances of survival are almost zero. The girls were surprised when he said he knew how to save Xuan. He ordered the tent to be quickly set up and began preparations for treatment. Liu planned to use the regeneration crystals captured from the assassins to restore damaged internal organs, but he understood that the crystal's energy might not be enough. In that case, he planned to invest his own energy. After the tent was ready, Liu picked up Xuan and went inside, strictly forbidding the others from entering. The girls remained outside, wondering about Liu's lack of tools and wondering how he was going to save Sister Qin Xuan. They knew they could only trust him, believing Xuan would survive. Yuri suggested they simply sit next to him and wait until the treatment was complete. Inside the tent, Liu placed Xuan on the table and concentrated, holding the regeneration crystal in his hand. He prayed that the crystal's energy would be enough to restore the damaged organs. When he activated the crystal and placed it on Xuan's body, the crystal glowed, and the girl began to moan in pain. The girls watched the tent from the outside, illuminated by the light that penetrated through the fabric. They noticed Xuan's strange sounds and tried to understand what Liu was doing, where he was putting his hands. Rui silenced them by explaining that the master was definitely treating Xuan, although his method seemed unusual. Xuan herself asked not to stop. Liu understood that the crystal's energy was not enough, and that the girl needed even more strength to fully recover. Liu placed his hands on Xuan's body, and a magical light flashed around them. He realized that in order to completely heal Qin Xuan, he would have to use his own life energy. Concentrating, he transferred power to the girl, trying to stabilize her condition. Shouts and noise could be heard outside, and the girls were worried, watching what was happening. Wang Ting was surprised as she watched what was happening. She couldn't believe that Qin Xuan was in such a dangerous situation and thought about how much Xiao Mo cared about the wounded. Rui reminded everyone that the victim needed rest and ordered the girls to return to their duties. The girls stepped back from the tent, discussing among themselves what was happening inside. But Wang Ting reassured everyone, noting that Liu was simply treating Qin Xuan. After a while, Liu came out of the tent, tired but calm. Rui and Wang Ting were shocked, thinking that something intimate had happened. Liu asked what was wrong with them and why they were looking like that. Rui asked if they had sex. In reality, Liu was simply healing Qin Xuan with a life crystal. Xuan was indignant, trying to understand the situation. Wang Ting breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that everything was not as she thought. Liu reminded them that they were in a post-apocalyptic world and immediately demanded that everyone return to their cars and move forward. The girls complied, and Xuan, still upset, realized that to Liu, she was just a teammate. The village was located between two rivers, and birds soared above it, creating an atmosphere of tranquility. The girls admired the view and the fresh air, feeling the complete absence of the smell of blood and zombies, which was a sharp contrast to the city of Loi. Liu, who was born here, thought back to his past days and felt like he was returning to his roots. Rui approached him to ask what to do next, and Liu informed her that they were almost there. He suggested taking a break and sending a few people to scout out the area. Perhaps something useful could be found in the village. Rui expressed doubt, recalling the possible presence of zombies, but Liu confidently said that there were none here. He mentally noted that he had already destroyed all potential threats in the village. The girls began to move forward, following him. Liu was thinking about something personal. He was planning to visit his grandparents' graves. Meanwhile, two girls stood in the square, watching the proceedings. Rui knelt down, watching the vegetables lying on the floor. She was surprised they hadn't rotted yet, even after several years of post-apocalyptic living. After examining the building, she noticed that the dust was not that thick, which confirmed her guess. Someone had lived here relatively recently. The girl noticed the abandoned book and began reading it. The entry read, September 1st, 2022, sunny. Grandpa fell ill and had a bad cough. Grandma and Uncle Chow went to the mountain to look for herbs, and the author came home to help Grandma boil water. Rui held the diary in her hands, flipping through the pages and noticing entries made long before the present moment. July 15th, 2022. Drizzling rain, his grandparents gone, he alone. November 11th, 2032. Sunny, and the diary contained a wish to kill someone named Bing. The girl was amazed at how it turned out that the diary anticipated future events. She was surprised, not understanding, this was written by Xiaomo years after the post-apocalyptic world. Suddenly, Liu appeared from behind, asking Rui what she was holding. The girl was startled and surprised that the owner had appeared at that precise moment. Liu grabbed Rui's hand, noticing the notebook. He asked what she was reading. Rui was frightened and admitted that she did not know that the diary belonged to the owner and had only read a little. Liu became angry, asking who allowed her to do this, and grabbed her by the throat. The girl gasped for breath, begging him to let her go. Having recovered from his anger, he let go of her, and Rui fell to the floor, trying to catch her breath. Liu apologized for his abruptness. Rui apologized to Liu, saying that she didn't know the diary was his personal property. Liu demanded that she keep this secret. Rui thought about how the owner seemed to have a troubled past and wondered who this being was. Liu stood outside, the leaves swirling in the wind. He remembered the past, his family, Hin, Bing, and the brothers who fought side by side with him. They are all dead now, but he is still alive, thought Liu. He took out a lighter, set fire to the diary, and promised himself to live for them. Suddenly, someone appeared from behind. Liu became wary and turned sharply, blade in hand. It turned out to be Chen Tong, who was worried about him and followed him after seeing that he had gone up the mountain alone. She said she followed him because she was a little worried. Liu assured her he was fine and suggested she come back. Chen Tong expressed her gratitude for all the days they spent together, noting that they were happy thanks to his help. She wanted to thank him properly, but Liu insisted that this conversation take place later, as the place remained dangerous. Chen Tong thought to herself that Liu was not romantic at all, since she had made special preparations, hoping to impress him. But he was focused solely on the danger and practical matters, oblivious to her romantic gesture. At that moment, a boar with red eyes suddenly appeared from behind him. Chen Tong fell to the floor and screamed, begging Liu to save her. He reacted instantly, hit the boar, and it fell dead. Suddenly, this boar situation showed that Liu's priority was protecting people, not romance, despite her efforts with the spirits. Liu sternly warned Chen Tong not to use perfume anymore, explaining that the smell of perfume would only attract zombies and wild animals, and survival depends on charm and caution. Chen apologized. Liu waved her off and said that someone should deliver the slain boar and that they would have a feast that evening. Chen mentally resolved not to give up. Meanwhile, the girls were enjoying the food. They were cooking wild boar, soups, fresh fish, and spicy cabbage over the fire. They said the boar meat was so delicious and thanked the owner for it. The meat could be saved in exchange for goods in town. You only need to leave a small amount. Liu went to rest. Chen watched Liu, deciding this was her chance. He was sitting on the bed. There were numerous bottles around him, and a candle was burning in the room. Liu's thoughts drifted to his grandfather and grandmother who had passed away, and he quietly wondered what it was like for them in heaven. Suddenly, the door quietly opened and Chen entered the room. She hadn't been able to sleep that night and decided to check on her master. Liu and Chen were left alone. He offered her a drink, but she declined. He calmed her down and took her hand, explaining that there was nothing complicated about it. Chen felt hot being near him, and Liu tried to help her relax. They found themselves on the bed, and after several hours, Chen lay next to Liu, feeling close. Liu scolded himself for not drinking, for not being able to do such a thing. She thought about her feelings, realizing that now something had changed between them. She was now his girlfriend. Liu got out of bed and realized it was too late, so he suggested that Chen go back. He handed her the crystal, explaining that with its help she would be able to buy many things in the city. Chen was surprised, and Liu apologized for his behavior, saying that he was a little drunk and was not looking for a girl, offering the crystal as compensation. Chen jumped out of bed in a rage, breaking the crystal, and refused him, emphasizing that she still had no boyfriend and did not need one. Liu apologized, explaining that he couldn't have a girlfriend right now and had simply gotten carried away. He handed Chen all his crystals, offering to give them to someone else if she wanted. The girl threw the crystals on the floor, refusing them, and ran out of the room in tears, screaming that all men are animals. Liu thought that everything in the world was cruel now, and the one he could fall in love with was not yet there. Outside, Chan could be heard sobbing as she sat on the floor, cursing at Liu, calling him a bastard and a jerk, not understanding why he would do such a thing if he didn't want to be her boyfriend. She decided that she didn't want to see him anymore and got ready to leave. Suddenly, a voice came from the bushes. She asked who was there, and Anne approached the girl, surprising Chan with her appearance. Anya explained that she was just going to the toilet and was alone, and the darkness could play a cruel joke. Chen couldn't believe her eyes. She thought she saw another girl, a woman in black with long blonde hair who definitely wasn't in their group. Anne, noticing Chen's anxiety, convincingly said that it was just an optical illusion, trying to calm her down, shaking her shoulders. However, behind Chen, there was already a girl with long snow-white hair. She realized she had been noticed, and the next second blood began to spill, splashing in all directions, leaving Anya in shock. The next day, one of the girls disappeared. Yuri informed Liu that Chen Tong had disappeared. Liu was surprised and asked a follow-up question, trying to understand what had happened. He suggested that the reason for the disappearance could be because Chen Tong was angry because of what was said last night. And Qing said that she saw Chen Tong that night crying and running away, saying that she was going to return to Luoyi City. Liu was stunned. How could she possibly reach the city through hordes of zombies and cover such a long distance? The thought of the impossibility of this route troubled him. Ria noticed that Xiaomo was clearly nervous and reminded herself that he hadn't interacted much with Chen Tong. Liu decided to try to bring her back by car, but Yuria expressed doubt, believing that it was already too late. Chen Tong could have driven hundreds of kilometers away. Liu became angry, punching the wall, and thought that there was no place for romance in this world and that her action was reckless. Yuria tried to calm him down, reminding him that Chen Tong was smart and that they had almost cleared the path of zombies, so she should be safe. But Liu was adamant. It didn't matter to him. She could act according to her own will and go wherever and whenever she wanted, regardless of the dangers. Liu gathered everyone and pointed the way to the summit. Yuri confirmed that she understood, noting that, judging by Xiaomo's reaction, there was probably something going on between him and Chen Tong. The team moved through the dense forest, trying to stick together so that no one would get lost. Liu wondered what he would see of the research laboratory once he reached the mountain, while also noting that the fog here was unusually thick. He warned everyone to stay close to each other and report any findings. The girls agreed and followed the instructions carefully, maintaining order and safety in the group. Wu approached Liu and reported that they sensed a powerful energy before them, completely unlike a zombie. The girl couldn't understand what it could be. Liu was surprised. It really didn't look like a zombie. Yuri suggested they go back, but Liu refused, relying on his memories that there could only be toxic miasmas here, which, although dangerous, were not fatal. He instructed Rui and Wu Nan to follow him, leaving Qin Xuan and the others behind, warning the girls to be careful. They agreed and prepared to move forward. Liu, Wu, and Yuri moved forward through the thick fog that hid the mountains and everything around them. Nothing was visible, and the feeling of an energy anomaly remained strange and vague. Wu noted that the energy's location had become blurry, as if it were disappearing or simultaneously everywhere. Liu realized that they were facing a formidable opponent. Liu called for Rui, but there was no answer. He turned around and noticed with horror that the girl was no longer there. His heart sank with anxiety. He ordered Wu Nan to locate Rui, but upon turning around, he realized Wu had also vanished. Both seemed to have vanished into the mist. A deathly silence fell around them. Liu gripped his sword hilt tightly, feeling the tension growing. There was a strange presence in the air. The white veil before his eyes swayed as if it were hiding something living within it, and he realized that the enemy was right inside this fog. Rui wandered through the thick fog, trying to make out any outlines around her. There was no one nearby, and only her own voice echoed in the white void. She called for the master, called for Wu Nan, but there was no answer. Suddenly, something made her flinch. Directly in front of her, she noticed a dark silhouette that gradually took shape. It was a deer. Its body was covered in strange red spots, like traces of blood. Rui stopped, not believing her eyes. The animal's gaze glowed with a dark red light. The girl froze, stunned by the strange and disturbing sight. Wu wandered through the fog, peering nervously into the whitish gloom. She tried to activate her abilities, but it was useless. The thick darkness completely blocked her senses. The girl felt despair. Neither Rui nor Liu were anywhere in sight. She didn't know which direction to take, and it seemed she was getting more and more lost with every step. Suddenly, a scarlet light shone through the fog behind her. Wu turned sharply, her heart clenching with alarm. The red glow grew brighter, and soon she saw a shadow in it. At first it seemed like just a reflection, but then the outlines of horns emerged from the darkness. Enormous, curved, as if covered in blood. Liu walked forward, peering intently into the thick white curtain, his mind working at full speed. Not a single energy fluctuation, not a trace of movement, emptiness. It was impossible. Wu Nan and Rui couldn't simply vanish into thin air. He concluded that until the source of this fog was found, the girls remained in mortal danger. Whoever created it was clearly hunting them. Liu gripped his blade and decided that if the enemy wouldn't show, he'd have to force it. A strange creature emerged from the dense darkness, a deer. His skin was covered with dark spots, like traces of blood, and his eyes glowed with a crimson light piercing the fog. Liu was surprised. The deer stood right in front of him, as if waiting. Liu's eyes turned red, as if he were hypnotized. His blade fell to the floor. Liu looked at the deer and said that the light was so beautiful. He reached out to the deer. The deer growled and opened its mouth with huge fangs. Suddenly, Liu grabbed him by the antlers. He said he'd finally caught him. Who would have thought that this zombie deer had created this fog all by himself? The deer struggled and growled. Liu thought the deer had mutated, but remained physically weak. He raised his blade and thought that once he dealt with it, the fog would disappear. Liu struck with his blade and the deer fell. He screamed, "Roll to hell!" The fog hadn't completely cleared. Liu thought there were still other mutated deer nearby. Wunan and Rui were still in danger. It was difficult to find them in this situation, but although the fog made it difficult to sense, he could still detect sound from the ground. Liu decided to use vibrations. He swung his blade and hit the ground, then looked around. There Liu saw a flash and realized that there was a deer there. At this point, Wu reached out to his face and said admiringly, "What a magnificent red light." But suddenly she woke up and was surprised. What just happened to her? In front of her was a huge deer's mouth with fangs. She screamed in horror. Suddenly, Liu appeared in front of her and struck the deer. "Die!" he shouted. Then he asked the girl if everything was okay with her. Wu Nan replied that she was fine and noted that the fog was created by the zombie deer for hunting. She added that they needed to find Rui as soon as possible, as she, too, must be in danger. "Don't worry," Liu said. "Ruya has the stone skin skill. Those deer won't be able to do anything to her." Rui appeared, holding a dead deer over her shoulder. She said she had found it and could eat it today. The girl added that the bastard tried to bite her, but couldn't break the skin, and then she simply beat him to death. Liu praised her, saying it was great, and noted to himself that luck was not on the deer's side. Liu, Rui, and Wu stood on the cliff, overlooking the laboratory below. They had finally made it. Liu noted that the toxic air was gone, and his suspicions about the destination were confirmed. The tower in front of them was the building he had spoken of earlier. He remembered that someone inside the building had briefly sent him into a post-apocalyptic world. There must be secrets inside the lab, and if he manages to uncover them, it could change a lot. Liu gathered everyone and ordered them to prepare for an attack, aiming to get inside the laboratory at any cost. There were a lot of zombies near the tower, so many that it was almost impossible to squeeze through, and everything around was covered in blood. Su appeared with a bazooka and began clearing the way, hitting the zombies. Rui ordered Qin Xuan to take a few girls and attack the flank, and directed the rest to focus on the zombies in front, making their way towards the building as Liu directed. Liu held 2 blades in his hands and went on the attack against the zombies, striking them, causing them to die. Wu, driving the car, noted that thanks to his actions, the path was cleared and they could move forward. The vehicles moved towards the building, and Rui directed the others to deal with the zombies outside while Liu went inside. He promised to leave as soon as he completed his task, warning everyone to be careful and take shelter in the building if necessary. The girls noticed a huge crystal in the middle of the room and admired it, imagining the wealth they could get by selling it. Wu noted that there didn't seem to be anything else of value here, and Su marveled at everything they had gone through to get here. Liu stood before the crystal, feeling a strange connection with it. He decided to examine it first and touched it. Suddenly, he disappeared, leaving the girls in surprise and bewilderment. Liu found himself in a completely different place, in a holographic world, surrounded by strange glowing forms. He was surprised to realize that he was inside a crystal. Suddenly, a girl appeared on the screen in front of him and said that she had been waiting for him. She introduced herself as Gaia, the embodiment of the will of the earth, explaining that it was she who sent him to the post-apocalyptic world for a short time. Liu, amazed by what was happening, tried to figure out her goals and the meaning of it all. The girl explained to Liu that the earth was gradually falling into decay due to zombies, and her goal was to destroy them all so that balance could be restored. She said that she had sent many people on the mission, but he was the only one who survived. Now he must travel back in time to the beginning of the post-apocalyptic world and stop the spread of the zombie virus. However, regardless of the outcome, Liu will not be able to return back. The girl emphasized that if the mission succeeds, history will change. The post-apocalyptic world will not come, and his team will be safe. Otherwise, its power will gradually fade away, and the consequences will be irreversible. Gaia gave Liu a choice, warning him that everything depended on him alone. By touching the light, he would be sent back in time to change the course of events. He had to decide whether he wanted to completely change history and put an end to the post-apocalyptic world or stay here to live among the zombies. Liu thought it over and decided to change everything. He touched the light, determined to fulfill his promise to Vantin, Wunani, Fei Fei, and the others, to give them a real life without the post-apocalyptic world. Gaia used the last of her strength to help him before the post-apocalyptic world. Night had fallen, the moon was shining in the sky, the high-rises were illuminated, and the supermarket was open. Vantin stood at the counter, surprised that he had run away so easily. She thought about how he saved her, and she didn't even know his name. Liu Xiaomo opened the door and introduced himself. Wang was glad to see him back and asked where he had gone, but Liu suggested not to think about it and took her hand. He said it was time to leave, and Wang was surprised and asked where exactly. Liu replied that they needed to save the world.